Mom, hey, Mom, wake up.
I was suddenly shaken awake, and my eyes barely opened to see my daughter's anxious face looming in my blurry vision. I slowly sat up and asked her, "What's wrong with you? Did you have a nightmare?"
No, Mom, please. We need to run away from Dad now. Hurry?
What? With that single word, my groggy mind snapped to alertness. What followed was a shocking revelation from my daughter that left me dumbfounded. My name is Sarah. I'm a 35-year-old ordinary woman who works while raising my 7-year-old daughter. Emily, our precious gem, is not only adorable but a bit unusual, or rather has some mysterious aspects.
Mom, you're forgetting your umbrella.
What? The weather forecast for that day was partly sunny with clouds. Despite the thick clouds, there were patches of blue sky. I was stopped by my daughter as I was about to leave the house before her. "It's fine. There's only a 10% chance of rain today."
But Mom, you're going to get soaked. I saw it in a dream. Please take an umbrella with you.
Reluctantly, I took the umbrella she handed me and headed to work. No way. I encountered a sudden downpour just before I was about to return home. I was surprised and came home drenched, only to be proudly greeted by my daughter, whose umbrella was also wet on the stand.
Welcome home, Mom. See, it happened just like I said.
Emily has had this slight mysterious power since she was very young, accurately predicting the weather and dinner menus. It might be an exaggeration to call it a precognitive ability, but it's unusual. She sometimes feels out of place because of this trait when playing with friends, but she doesn't seem to mind. Above all, we, her family, have accepted this as part of her uniqueness. And she's otherwise a perfectly normal, adorable girl. What concerns me more is my husband, Mike, who is the same age as me. We met through a marriage agency. Back then, I was a hard-working career woman. I was successful but inexperienced with relationships. Urged by my impatient parents, I registered with the agency. It might be odd for a wife to say, but Mike was even more handsome back then and instantly charmed me. Moreover, he was a feminist, and I instantly fell in love. Our relationship quickly progressed with marriage in mind. My husband and I have been married for 10 years this year. He always comes home late these days. Emily is only 7 years old, and she still requires a lot of care. Juggling her care, household chores, and work without Mike's help has been overwhelming.
Everything costs money these days, and we need to save as much as we can for Emily's sake. You never know what might happen, so I'm working hard.
That's what he said when I asked him about it. I can't argue with him when he says it's for Emily's sake. I've been overwhelmed with work, household chores, and solo parenting. Then, one day, Mike came home early, looking extremely tense. Sensing the mood, I sent Emily away before asking, "What's wrong? Did something happen?"
Actually, I want to quit my job.
What? It was completely unexpected. After putting Emily to bed, we talked, and it turned out he's been struggling with workplace relationships and no longer finds his job fulfilling, making it a pain to go to work.
Don't blame me. I just can't take it anymore. Once things settle down, I'll find another job right away. Until then, I'll take care of everything at home.
I didn't want him to quit, but forcing him could lead to worse outcomes. I see. All right. Reluctantly, I agreed to his request. Before long, I got serious about my job, and my husband became a stay-at-home dad. His way of doing household chores and cooking was, to put it mildly, a bit sloppy compared to when I did them. What particularly bothered me was the meals. I came home around 9 o'clock in the night when my daughter went to bed and ate my husband's homemade food, but there was a lot of fried food and the seasoning was surprisingly strong. So I always needed water. The first time I ate it, I couldn't help but confront him. What is this? You didn't feed the same thing to our daughter, did you?
No, I made sure to prepare something with lighter flavors for the kid. And I kept the portions appropriate. I thought you'd appreciate something with a bit more flavor after a long day.
Too much fried food, not enough vegetables, and the soup barely tastes like anything. I'd be fine with a lighter seasoning for kids, and I wish you'd pay more attention to balancing the meals. Despite my repeated comments, the seasoning and menu hardly changed. If I tried to leave anything uneaten, he'd say,
I'll save it for our daughter to eat tomorrow.
That's a joke. I'd rather eat it myself than let our daughter have it. Reluctantly, I'd finish my meal, and as an apology, he started offering dessert after dinner. He also began preparing a nightly drink and snack, calling it a nightcap set, thinking it would please me. I hadn't been much of a drinker or late-night snacker before, but I couldn't outright reject his kindness. I appreciated his efforts in cooking and his attempts at being a good house husband. So I generally turned a blind eye, enjoying the break from household chores. About 6 months into my role as the primary breadwinner, I finally had a day off with absolutely no plans. However, I felt off from the morning and lay down feeling foggy. Lately, I've been feeling lethargic without any fever and suffering from headaches. I'd fall asleep right after eating. Maybe I've been overdoing it at work. Luckily, my husband took our daughter out to a nearby large shopping mall, promising to contact me if anything came up. I was grateful for his thoughtfulness, allowing me some much-needed rest. Feeling grateful to my husband in my heart, I was dozing off.
I'm back.
I woke up to the sound of the front door and my husband's voice. I realized that it was already evening. I had slept through the day without having lunch since before noon. Welcome back. Sorry, honey, I couldn't play with you today. Did you have fun? I asked our daughter, holding a palm-sized character mascot she must have gotten while out. But she nodded quietly, looking down, unlike her usual self. I tilted my head, puzzled by her unusual behavior. What's wrong? Did something happen?
Maybe she's just tired from walking around all day. You should take a shower and rest early, okay?
My husband gently placed his hand on our daughter's shoulder, and she nodded slightly before heading to her room. When she was out of sight, I quietly asked my husband, Hey, she seemed a bit off. Did you scold her or something?
No, I didn't do anything. I think she's just tired. Anyway, about dinner.
I tensed up at his words. I was frankly fed up with his cooking. About dinner, I'll cook tonight. I've had a restful day and feel energized.
Oh, okay, then. I'll prepare the nightcap. I even bought dessert as usual.
He smiled, lifting a bag that clearly had the logo of a famous cream puff shop. Let's make tonight's meal low-calorie and good nutritious. Later, we had dinner together and decided to sleep together for the first time. Though she smiled when it was just the two of us, I could tell she was anxious and wanted to spend as much time together as possible.
Mom, I have something to say.
In the privacy of our bedroom, wrapped in blankets, my daughter whispered in a voice so faint I almost missed it. What is it?
Please don't drink any alcohol at tonight.
What? Could this be another instance of her slight precognitive ability? Nodding in response to my daughter's serious gaze, she closed her eyes, seemingly reassured. And so, before my husband could prepare our nightcap, I went to bed and decided to sleep early. Surely, he wouldn't go as far as to wake me up for a drink. If he tries to wake me, I'll just pretend to be asleep. With that thought in mind, I closed my eyes.
Mom, hey, Mom, wake up.
I was suddenly shaken awake, and my eyes barely opened to see my daughter's anxious face looming in my blurry vision. I realized I had actually fallen asleep, my vision blurry as my daughter's anxious face came into view. Checking the bedside clock, I saw it was 2 a.m., and I noticed my husband, who should have been sleeping next to me, was absent. Maybe he went to the bathroom. Slowly sitting up, I asked her, "What's wrong? Did you have a nightmare?"
No, Mom, please. We need to run away from Dad now. Hurry?
What? That single word snapped me out of my grogginess. What did she just say? Asking her quietly, still in shock. Why? Why would you say that?
This is our chance while Dad's not here. Because if we don't, something bad's going to happen to you, Mom. Like getting sick or an accident.
What do you mean? As I stared dumbfounded, my daughter, unable to hold back any longer, started to cry. Holding her in my lap and gently stroking her trembling back, she gradually calmed down and began to speak. According to her, while returning from the restroom at the mall, she overheard her dad on the phone. Having always been told not to interrupt when someone is on the phone, she approached quietly.
Dad was saying, just a little longer, and she'll be gone. Planning to make it look like an accident or illness. Once that's done, we can be together with the insurance money.
Who was he talking to?
I don't know. At first, I thought it was you, Mom. But it wasn't. Because, Dad, he was saying bad things about you, and he said I love you to the person.
If this was true, my husband was planning to send me to my demise. Besides, my husband is having an affair. My daughter was sobbing and continued.
He said I love you to someone not Mom. I was so shocked, I accidentally called out to Dad. Then Dad immediately ended the call and asked, "How long have you been there?" When I said just now, he smiled and said, "Let's keep this our little secret from Mom. If you don't tell, you'll get a new, kind, and sweet mom."
Tears and snot streaming down her face, she clung to me.
"But, I want you. I don't need another mom. I love you so much,"
she wailed, clinging to me. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of guilt for putting her through this, and anger towards my husband. My daughter had braved her fears to protect me from her own father. How scared she must have been. How much courage she must have needed. Afterwards, holding my daughter, we went downstairs to the entrance. The moment I noticed my husband's favorite shoes were missing, any slight trust I had in him vanished alongside my daughter's words. According to her, this wasn't the first time he had left in the middle of the night. She had seen him leave several times when going to the bathroom. How had I never noticed before? Even in deep sleep, if my daughter rarely wakes up at night and had seen him leave multiple times, it must have been frequent. My daughter was gripping the hem of my dress tightly. Her actions made me realize there was no time to doubt my husband. That's right. This is not the time for that. I need to respond to my daughter's courage. Perhaps because I hadn't drunk any alcohol, I felt more alert and clear-headed than usual. Looking into my daughter's eyes, I said, "Emily, if we run away from Dad now, we might never see him again. Will you still come with me?"
"Yes, I'm scared of Dad. I want to be with you, Mom. I want to stay with you forever."
All right. I made up my mind. Fortunately, my daughter was in the middle of her summer vacation. I told her to pack what she needed, and I quickly packed our bags as well. And then, I was stunned as I checked the contents of the drawer where I kept our valuables. Opening another drawer that I rarely open, my suspicion was confirmed. A surge of anger rose within me, but for now, leaving was the priority. We hurriedly left the house before dawn and decided to seek refuge at my parents' house. My parents were surprised to see us arrive so early in the morning, but they kindly welcomed us after showing them what I found just before leaving and explaining what my daughter had told me. After the day had fully dawned, I sent a casual message. My mom got hurt. I'm taking my daughter to help out for her a month or so. Please take care of the house while we're gone.
Got it. Leave everything here to me.
He was surprisingly calm about his daughter and wife disappearing overnight. Surely, he must be smirking, thinking he can now do as he pleases alone. I'll lay low for now, but I won't let this go, for my daughter's sake. As soon as we arrived at my parents' house, my daughter, still with tear stains on her cheeks, fell asleep. Looking at her sleeping face, I made a certain phone call. About a month after taking refuge at my parents' house, I decided to return to our home, leaving my daughter with my mom. I entered the living room after unlocking the door, my smartphone in my chest pocket. My husband, who had been holding his head in front of his smartphone, gave me a forced smile as if nothing had happened.
Oh, welcome back. Don't just come back suddenly like that. You surprised me. Oh, how about I make you a nice iced coffee with lots of milk and sugar?
If it were the old me, I might have been deceived, but not today. I don't need it. Instead, I want you to write this. I confronted my husband, who was about to head to the kitchen with divorce papers. He sighed deeply after glancing at them.
Divorce, huh? Well, if that's what you really want, I'll agree.
His reaction was expected, but it infuriated me. He casually accepted it with a smile.
I'll agree to the divorce since you're the one asking for it, but you'll meet my demands for the settlement, right?
What are you talking about? You're the one who'll be paying.
What?
My husband looked puzzled. He shook his head unwillingly with a forced smile.
Come on, I've been supporting you in my way, and now you're handing me divorce papers unilaterally.
A good husband. The kind that skips work for affairs and plans to put his wife in danger?
What are you talking about?
I couldn't help but snort at his dumbfounded face. I pulled out a small bottle filled with pills from a drawer I hardly used and showed it to him. The label read, "For stubborn insomnia. 1 pill for a good night's sleep."
I bought it because I couldn't sleep well.
It's obvious if you look at it. The amount hasn't decreased since I left. I opened and took pictures of everything before I left. Want me to compare?
Don't talk nonsense. Besides, where's the proof that I gave those to you?
Everything you've been doing with your mistress. I know all about it.
What?
I returned to my seat with the bottle in hand, pulling an envelope from my bag and spilling its contents. My husband froze in shock. No wonder. Those were printouts of messages he had sent to his mistress. It says things like, "I'm skipping work to see you. Wait for me."
I quit my job so we can talk more. Love you. I got something that'll make sure she won't wake up. I can visit you during that. Think we can be together soon. Wait for me, my princess.
He sent this kind of message. Every lie about working late and his plans to make my demise look like an accident or illness were detailed. Thinking back, the meals he prepared for me were high in salt, fat, and even sugary desserts. It's no wonder my health declined. Plus, he probably tampered with my drinks while I took a shower. I didn't drink often, so I didn't notice. But when I drank the same thing at my parents' house, the difference in taste was shocking and confirmed my suspicions. I started feeling unusually tired after beginning to eat your meals. I never felt refreshed despite falling asleep quickly. No wonder with alcohol in these pills. Mixing them is the worst. Imagine what could have happened. My husband's face turned pale as his eyes darted around.
That's how come you have this stuff. Don't tell me you snooped through my phone. That's a violation of privacy.
No, I got it from her, your mistress.
What?
I flipped over a second envelope to show him, and his face went white. No wonder. The scattered photos showed him getting cozy with a young woman. Right after returning to my parents' house, believing my daughter's words, I contacted a private investigator to track my husband's movements. He probably never imagined I'd doubt him. Not even 3 days after we left, he was bringing his mistress into our house, living as if they were newlyweds. It was easy to find out about his mistress's background, from her real name to her workplace. A few days ago, I negotiated with your mistress. I showed her the photos and said if she provided testimony and evidence favorable to us, I'd reduce the compensation fee. She handed over her phone and said, "Do whatever you want with it." My husband was flipping between his phone and the photos. He muttered things like, "So that's why." And she betrayed me. I tapped the divorce papers laid out on the table. Now, onto the main issue. With all this evidence, I could go to the police, but I don't want the father of my child to have a criminal record.
So, what then?
Sign the divorce papers. Plus, the settlement money, alimony, child support. Oh, and the savings you spent on your mistress. You'll pay that back, right?
Wait a minute. It was just a fling. Divorce just like that.
Whether it was a fling or not doesn't matter to me. You betrayed your family. You inflicted trauma on our daughter. You tried to end my life. After all that, thinking you could get away with it is delusional. As I said that, my husband collapsed to his knees. Just as I thought that, he grabbed my leg, glaring at me fiercely.
It's your fault for being such a charmless woman. Did you really think I'd just return everything quietly?
My husband raised his fist. I pursed my lips, stared him down, and pulled out my phone, holding it up to his face. I've been on the phone the whole time since I entered the house.
What?
His fist froze. As his grip loosened, I quickly stood up and gathered the documents I brought. The person on the other end of the phone is my father and my lawyer. They're waiting just around the corner, ready to come in at any moment.
No, that's not. It's different.
I've been recording all as well, so I'll use it as evidence. From now on, we'll communicate through my lawyer. My husband, lost for words, slumped down as I left the house with my belongings. I got into the car where my father and the lawyer were waiting, sighed, and then called my mother, who was looking after my daughter. My daughter cheerfully greeted me on the phone.
Mom? Did you finish talking with Dad?
Yay, Emily, I'm sorry. I talked to him, but it turns out we can't live with your dad anymore. Her reply was silence. Guilt for taking her father away from my little daughter hit me, even though I had resolved myself. Sorry, Emily, that. Well.
Mom, it's okay. I understand. I'll be here for you.
Her words enveloped me softly, making the back of my nose tingle. Tears welled up, and my father beside me offered support. Later, we got divorced. The apartment we lived in was sold due to the division of assets, and I returned to my parents' house. My ex-husband, jobless and unable to afford a lawyer, couldn't pay the agreed amount and ended up begging his parents for help. His parents were furious with him. My in-laws paid a compensation and other expenses he owed me in full as an apology. Afterward, he tried to cling to his mistress, who quickly discarded him. Unable to find a decent job, he now leads a difficult life filled with odd jobs, as I heard from my in-laws. Meanwhile, I began a new life with my parents and daughter at their home. Emily stopped making her mysterious comments after moving but made good friends at her new school and seems happy every day. We might face many challenges ahead, but I swear, on my now empty ring finger, to raise my daughter well and ensure her happiness.
There are no seats for the poor.
Michelle, my son's mill, stood blocking the path between the bride and groom. The bride, Emily, seemed utterly perplexed by her mother's actions. So were we. I exchanged looks with my son, Alex. Today was Alex and Emily's wedding day. It was supposed to be their big day, yet somehow Michelle ended up running the show. I looked at Michelle. She looked down on me and Alex. Well, if that's how it is, there's nothing we can do.
Shall we head out?
Yay. We decided to leave the venue. I could hear Emily pleading with Michelle. Michelle didn't think she's in the wrong. She thought it was our fault that we were poor and single mother families. But I disagree. What's so criminal about being a single mother family? And what's inferior about it? I'll show Michelle. The seriousness of raising my son alone. My name is Lily Tanner. I'm 50 years old. I was blessed with my son, Alex, at the age of 25. But my husband passed away in a car accident shortly after Alex was born, leaving for heaven. For the past 25 years, I've raised and supported Alex on my own. I never remarried. I've been tirelessly working part-time jobs. All the hardships were about to finally pay off.
I've got a girlfriend. I want you to meet her.
Those words were such a relief to me. However, Alex's engagement brought new turmoil into our household.
How much does Alex make a year?
The first words were not a greeting, but a question. It was a luxurious mansion. I was surprised by how comfortable the chairs were when Emily and her mother appeared.
Well,
as Alex hesitantly disclosed his salary, Michelle snorted arrogantly.
Is that all?
Mom, stop it.
Emily frowned. I must have had a similar expression. How rude, was my honest opinion of Michelle.
Thank you for coming today.
Emily said, trying to mend the atmosphere.
I've brewed some tea. It's my favorite tea.
Please stop it, Emily. It's not like these people would know the difference anyway.
Mom.
Emily's face fell. Sitting opposite Emily, Alex spoke up.
maybe I can't tell the difference in taste, but I'd like to hear what Emily has to say.
Alex, thank you.
A smile finally appeared on Emily's face. Michelle looked on at their exchange with evident displeasure. She seemed unhappy with Emily and Alex's relationship.
May I have a moment?
What is it? Michelle gestured for me to follow her to another room. She didn't want to make Emily any more uncomfortable. That meant the upcoming conversation was bound to be unpleasant.
What kind of nerve do you have?
Excuse me.
Your son, what nerve does he have, approaching my daughter, with such a low income?
Michelle raised her voice hysterically. I was speechless. Alex graduated from a top university and works at a decent company. And that's where he met Emily. Meaning, in terms of income, they were compatible. In such a situation, she was only criticizing Alex.
The heir to this house is her brother, so she will eventually leave and marry into another family.
So are you dissatisfied because your daughter will become our family?
Of course.
Michelle was red-faced with excitement.
I had a detective investigate. You're a single mother family, aren't you?
And what of it? I tilted my head. I've never felt inferior about being a single mother family. Sure, there were days when I came home late. Maybe I made Alex feel lonely at times. But as a result, Alex grew up to be a good person.
I'll protect you for all the hardships we've faced.
I'll never forget him saying that to me at the high school graduation ceremony. True to his word, Alex worked hard. He went to university on scholarships, always kept his grades at the top. After he graduated, he got a job at his current company and repaid his student loans on his own. I'm proud of my son. Being insulted like this, I couldn't stay silent. With all due respect.
Let me guess, you irresponsibly had a child, and the man ran off. How shameful.
Well, you really have a terrible imagination, I said, barely containing my anger. Michelle's brows furrowed.
What did you say?
Why can you only imagine such lowly things? What's going on in your head is far worse.
I will not allow you to mock my wife any further.
A low, growling voice interrupted. Looking up, I saw a middle-aged man standing at the entrance of the room, glaring at us.
David!
Michelle exclaimed, rushing to the man. He gave a sloppy smile and embraced Michelle. It appeared this man was Michelle's husband. Michelle wore a triumphant smile. She was clearly believing that being married made her superior.
Listen to this, dear.
Yes, I understand.
The man replied saccharinely to his wife, then looked hard at us.
If you continue to insult my wife, I will have to call a lawyer.
But it was her who started berating my son unprovoked. I protested. It was futile. The man, completely henpecked, regarded me as an enemy.
So, someone like you is going to be part of my daughter's family. Emily has no judgment.
Yes, indeed.
The couple looked down on Alex and me together. As I was at a loss for words, footsteps approached.
Stop it, both of you.
Emily.
I thought it was strange that you suddenly disappeared, so I came looking.
Alex spoke with a voice strained with anger.
Emily, I'm sorry. We're leaving for today.
Alex.
Emily looked down sadly. Alex momentarily showed a look of reluctance, but quickly composed himself.
Let's go, Mom.
Sure. Alex began to lead me away. Michelle's voice called out from behind us.
Never come back to our house again.
As if I would. Emily did nothing wrong. It was her parents who were pitiable for putting her in such a difficult position. Yet, I couldn't bring myself to forgive them. What should I do? Is it okay to just watch over Alex and Emily's relationship? Hey, Alex.
I have no intention of breaking up with Emily.
He said, as if reading my thoughts. His eyes looked down, filled with a sense of apology.
I really do love Emily.
I see. His words and expression made up my mind. I'll support your relationship.
Mom, thank you.
He must have expected me to oppose. Alex broke into a smile. And his happiness was contagious. I found myself smiling too. I've been quietly observing Alex and Emily's relationship. Since then, we haven't seen Emily's parents. Emily avoided the topic when she visited our home, engaging in different conversations instead. Alex inevitably led our conversation. They made sure to include me in their world. I appreciate it deeply.
Mom, we're talking about the wedding venue.
Wedding venue? What about it? I was puzzled, and the two exchanged looks.
Come on, Mom. We just talked about Emily and my wedding.
What? Your wedding? I couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. So you two are finally getting married.
Despite our parents' objections. But it's our life.
Emily said, her expression a mix of emotions. Yet determination underpinned her words. It seemed she had chosen to walk through life with Alex. As a mother, could there be anything more gratifying? I'm fond of Emily too. If she's willing to stand by Alex as his wife, nothing could be more reassuring. Tears welled up in my eyes. Alex noticed and was startled.
Are you okay, Mom?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I know it's too early to cry, but... I hastily wiped away my tears. Emily offered me a handkerchief. It's adorned with a pattern of light blue clovers on a white background.
You are my Mill.
So you'll call me that. Thank you. I was overwhelmed with joy. To have such a kind son and deal was a blessing. But this feeling of happiness was about to be shattered. Starting with the wedding reception, a nightmare's beginning. I stopped, puzzled. Looking around the venue, I couldn't find my seat anywhere. After making a full circle, it was clear there was no seat for me. Wondering if it was a mistake by the venue staff, I approached the staff at the venue. Excuse me.
Are you still here?
It wasn't a staff member who responded, but Michelle. Her arms crossed and smirking smugly.
Why don't you take a hint? This wedding is very important to the Minton family.
Michelle said so with a condescending tone. Indeed, she had taken over arranging the entire ceremony. All the plans Emily had made were dismissed, and Alex's opinions were ignored.
Mom, hold on, wait.
Emily and Alex, unable to stand by any longer, came over. Michelle inserted herself between them, standing protectively like a mother shielding her child, right between the bride and groom. Then she said those words.
There are no seats for the poor.
I see, that's the reason. So, Michelle never intended to provide a seat for me from the start. Realization dawned on me, accompanied by a sense of emptiness.
Shall we go?
Yay. Alex took my hand, and we began to walk away unsteadily. Emily seemed to be pleading with her mother, but Michelle remained indifferent. And so, the nightmare of a wedding came to an end. As we got into the car, Alex's smartphone rang. It was Emily.
Are you both okay?
Yay, sorry for leaving you alone there.
It's not your fault. It's my parents to blame.
Emily's voice was clearly downcast. Alex must have wanted to stay by her side. I looked up and said, "You should stay with Emily."
But what about you, Mom?
I can make it home on my own. I tried to remember how to smile, but my expression remained strained.
I am sorry, Mom.
After hesitating, Alex decided to return to the venue. Driving home, I pondered, what's so wrong with being a single mother family? Michelle had mentioned using a detective. Then, she must have investigated Alex as well. She doesn't understand a thing about my son. But maybe that's for the best. With that thought, I caught myself. What was I planning to do? It's obvious, isn't it? To retaliate against that hateful woman. I had all the cards I needed. Michelle had only paid attention to what suited her, oblivious to the rest. That's why she is unaware. Waiting at home for Alex to return. He came back with Emily.
I'm sorry about my parents.
It's all right. I had regained my composure. Seeing my calm demeanor, they both seemed relieved. Exchanging relieved glances, I told them, "Alex, I'll contact Grandpa."
What? Are you calling my grandpa?
Alex's smile vanished, and Emily tilted her head in confusion.
What's wrong?
My grandfather is the president of Dale Corporation.
Oh, really?
Emily seemed to grasp the situation. She said with her expression one of alarm,
Is there no other way?
"We've reached our limit," I said, almost moaning. My Phil, John, promised me, after my husband passed away, that he would solve any problem if we ever faced one. That's right. On the day my husband never returned from an accident.
Shall we take Alex in? It must be hard with just a woman's hand.
John had offered, but I shook my head. I will raise Alex on my own.
Okay, I got it.
In that case, John made a promise to me. And now the moment to fulfill that promise had arrived.
My father was meant to inherit Dale Corporation.
Alex said, looking down.
I had no idea you came from such a distinguished lineage.
I'm sorry for keeping it a secret, but I hated the idea of being evaluated because of my family's background.
I understand that, but I wish you had told me.
Emily's voice was filled with sadness. It was understandable. Dale Corporation is a globally renowned conglomerate. Because Michelle made an enemy of someone with such a powerful backing. The Minton family will be over. The retaliation began immediately.
My parents' clients seem to be pulling away from us one after another.
Is that so? I nodded, unsurprised. Since then, Emily had only returned home once to collect her belongings and had stayed away from her parents' house. She's been living with us. She's been helping out with household chores within her capacity. But the figure she cut was far from that of a blissful new bride. Emily was caught between her family and her new home. The strain was undeniable. Alex, noticing her exhaustion, worried about her constantly. He would bring home her favorite sweets after his work and made sure to listen to her feelings whenever possible.
If this continues, my family will end up destitute.
There's nothing we can do. I sighed back at her tearful plea. John accepted me, despite our differences in family background and education, as his son's wife. It was a gift of trust and love for his child, accepting all his choices.
That's...
Emily struggled to find the right words. Emily's parents criticized a single-mother family. They looked down on Alex as unworthy of joining their family lineage. But what's the reality?
That poor-looking man is the grandson of a major corporation's president. You must be joking.
Shouldn't we apologize to them now?
Don't be stupid.
What Emily heard from her parents during her brief return home to collect her belongings was such an exchange. Since that was the only time she went back, she didn't know how their conversation turned out afterward.
My mom isn't the type to apologize to anyone.
I guess so. Some people only feel fulfilled in life by looking down on others. What a petty existence. It's a pity, too.
What about suggesting your family apologize?
That's impossible. Or rather, it would be meaningless. Doing that would just make my mom more stubborn.
What a troublesome person.
Alex was exasperated. Emily looked down and shook her head too. It seemed there was no solution for them to break through this situation. Nor did I have one. Or rather, I didn't even intend to stop it. The Minton family was intoxicated with power. They looked down on others. They didn't hesitate to crush those around them. And now, by misjudging who to look down upon, they found themselves on the side being looked down upon. It was only a matter of time before they were crushed by the very power they revered. What would they do now? If they are as capable as they boasted, they'll find a way out on their own.
Lily.
Emily finally broke down in tears.
Mom, that's enough. It's time to talk to Grandpa.
It was when Alex began to speak. Then Emily's smartphone rang. She looked up. She wiped her tears and checked the notification. Her eyes widened.
It's from my mom.
Go ahead and answer. They must have their side of the story.
Okay.
Encouraged by me, Emily obediently answered the phone. A loud voice could be heard even on our end.
You traitor, running away as soon as the family is in danger. Aren't you ashamed?
I'm not running away.
Emily seemed a bit offended. That's probably right. She's not running from anyone. She's facing reality, both yesterday and today. While she worries about her family home, she chooses to stay with us. Not to appease us, but to stop me. Emily's tone became firmer.
Mom, do you see now? This is what happens when you judge people superficially.
Don't speak as if you understand.
Michelle's voice was filled with rage. In contrast, Emily remained calm. Perhaps her struggles had given her a clarity of vision.
Why did you have to be so cruel? I wanted my new family to get along. But Mom, you couldn't do that.
That woman is not worthy of our family.
Michelle had narrowed her disdain solely to me. I bit my lip. Yes, it was me. I was born into an ordinary family with neither impressive education nor looks. Yet, someone accepted me, loved me, saying I was enough. He was an heir, and at first, I was hesitant. But eventually, we were drawn to each other and decided to marry.
You won't regret it, right?
That's all John asked.
How could I?
That was my husband's response, a face I'll never forget. His warm, dependable profile, promising to protect me. However, my husband's promise did not last long. Leaving for heaven alone, my beloved. Tell Michelle.
What should I convey?
Shaking off my self-mockery, I spoke in my usual tone. To give you a chance. What a proposition I was making. I couldn't even tell what expression I was wearing. I myself wasn't aware. John will come, and you can directly argue that this treatment is unjust.
As you wish.
It seemed my voice reached without Emily's intervention. Michelle, summoning her last bit of defiance, retorted.
To get upset over such trivial matters and oppose us.
It may be trivial. I pondered. It didn't bother me to be the focus of attacks and insults. But what about Alex? With such a character for his mill? When would he start receiving poor treatment as well? This wasn't about pride. This was a mother's battle to worry for and protect my child. Michelle didn't seem to understand that. What began as a direct confrontation turned out quite pitiful.
I'm sorry.
For what exactly are you apologizing?
Upon entering, Michelle's husband immediately apologized. John, seated comfortably on the sofa, observed the couple. Michelle looked down on her husband with disdain.
You.
Boy, you should apologize, too. This is entirely our fault.
Michelle's husband began to sob. I stood beside John. Alex and Emily were not allowed to be present. John deemed it too harsh a scene for them to witness.
Entirely.
My father-in-law's eyebrows twitched.
Explain specifically. What did you do, and what was wrong with it?
Well,
Michelle's husband fell silent, seemingly unable to answer the question. Not surprising. They didn't truly believe they were in the wrong. They were just apologizing to appease John, waiting for the storm to pass. Like children scolded by a teacher.
So you apologized to us without knowing what you did wrong.
that is, well,
Michelle's husband looked troubled, turning to his wife. Michelle managed a strained smile.
The misunderstanding about not preparing a seat for Miss Tanner, right? We are truly sorry.
A misunderstanding. I raised my voice. I remember clearly. You told me there are no seats for the poor.
What are you talking about?
Michelle feigned ignorance, her face a picture of confusion. I was dumbfounded. With John present, Michelle tried to pretend as if the inconvenient truth had never happened. How dreadful you are.
You're the one with a persecution complex. Stop slandering us.
That's enough.
John said, clearly fed up.
So you claim it was all a misunderstanding?
Of course.
Michelle answered immediately. There was hope in those eyes. If she could convince John, they would win. But the next moment, my Phil was furious.
How long do you intend to lie? I have confirmed your actions not only with the newlyweds, but with everyone present at the venue.
Everyone, that's impossible.
The light faded from Michelle's eyes, and she collapsed on the spot.
Please, do something.
She clung to her husband, but he was only crying. Facing the pathetic couple, John said,
If you had sincerely apologized for your rudeness, I could have forgiven you. But what did you do? Nothing but lies for self-preservation. I'm speechless with disgust.
Your son picked such a boring woman, right? Michelle yelled in defiance.
Weren't you frustrated that such a woman became your son's wife?
Do you hate Lily that much?
John's expression turned to one of pity. Michelle exclaimed loudly.
Yes, I couldn't stand her. That's why I was mean to her. For just that, why must I face such consequences?
Because your way of thinking is incompatible with mine.
John's voice was advisory, seeking to impart wisdom.
I wanted to understand who Lily was.
He said, looking at me. I was straightening up. John had an aura of an enlightened sage.
My son wouldn't choose a strange woman. So, I thought, this woman must have her charms. I wanted to discover those charms by talking to her.
What a waste of time.
Michelle scoffed, but John remained calm.
Lily is kind and hardworking. She has raised our grandson commendably on her own. My son's judgment was not mistaken.
That makes sense.
Michelle's husband seized the opportunity to curry favor with John. He seemed to be looking for a chance to seek forgiveness.
My wife is completely different. She lacks judgment in people. That's why she targeted Lily and Alex.
You are cowardly.
What?
Michelle's husband was taken aback. John's face slightly frowned.
Do you intend to push all the blame onto your wife? Firstly, you're also at fault for choosing a woman without judgment.
That is.
That's enough.
Michelle shouted. Everyone's gaze shifted towards her. Michelle twisted her lips.
President, you just want to side with Lily, don't you?
That would be obvious.
John nodded.
If that's the case, talking is pointless.
I agree.
John nodded again, and Michelle had already turned on her heel.
Let's go. It's useless to say anything more. From here on, we'll have to figure out how to rebuild the company on our own.
Don't talk like it's easy. With the president's pressure, all our clients have left.
Her husband's feeble attitude seemed to displease Michelle. Michelle said with a voice tinged with irritation,
Then we'll find new clients.
It won't be that easy.
Her husband also exited the room, dragged along by Michelle's resolve. Left behind, I sighed. Thank you, John.
No need for thanks.
John shook his head leisurely. And so, he spoke as if to impress upon me.
You earned my trust through your actions and strength, and they, through their actions, have earned my disappointment.
Yes. John hadn't sided with me unconditionally. It was trust in me that prompted his support. Meaning, if I were to stray from the right path, he wouldn't help me anymore. I will remember this, John. I thanked him. The downfall of Michelle and her husband was relayed through Emily. Emily has been staying with us, and since then, we've started receiving communications from Michelle.
Emily, come back home now. You need to help with our business.
No, Mom, I'm not coming back.
Emily's resolve was evident in her eyes.
I understand what you want, Mom. You want me married into a well-off family, right?
This child is.
It seems she hit the nail on the head, I thought, hearing Michelle's grumbling voice through the phone. Let me talk to her.
Are you sure?
It's fine, I assured her with a gentle smile. And Emily handed me the smartphone. Hello, Michelle.
How dare you speak to me like that?
I'm not enjoying this conversation either, I replied, deciding it was time to settle things with Michelle once and for all. Also out of concern for Emily, I made an effort to speak in a calm voice. I've decided to forget about your meanness.
What?
Her baffled response came through. I continued. I don't want to be involved with you any longer. That's why I'm choosing to forget you. Hating someone is exhausting and brings me no benefit.
Don't give me that noble talk.
Michelle snarled like a carnivore.
I won't forget you. I'll hold a grudge against you for life.
Her voice made me understand why John hadn't accepted Michelle's apology. It was a chilling voice. Goodbye then.
Give me back my daughter.
Emily is now Alex's wife and has taken the Tanner surname.
I'll make them divorce right now.
I informed her. That's impossible. Knowing she should be aware of this fact. Emily is pregnant with our son's child.
What?
Michelle fell silent. She isn't sure how to respond. After a pause, she spoke. Her voice is trembling.
Please, give me back my daughter. I don't care about the baby.
Are you still saying that? I sighed. Looking at Emily, she gently caressed her barely noticeable belly. Could she possibly think of abandoning her unborn child to return to her parental home? There's no way Emily would do that. How could a mother not understand this? Do you intend to separate Emily from her child?
If she has a child, she won't find another place to marry into,
Michelle selfishly remarked. It was evident that Michelle intended to use Emily for their convenience. Please don't involve yourself with Emily anymore.
I'm her mother.
Michelle's voice, though weak, was stubborn.
Give her back.
Don't be unreasonable. I'm hanging up now.
Hold on, she's pregnant. That must be a lie. She couldn't possibly.
Michelle was panicking.
Let me talk to her again.
I'll talk to Mom.
Emily intervened, seeing the distressful situation. Despite being a delicate time for her, she was determined to speak to her mother. Reluctantly, I handed over the smartphone.
Hi, Mom.
Emily, it's a lie, right? That woman is lying, isn't she?
Mom, it's all true.
Emily's voice was calm yet firm.
I'm going to be a mother here, so I can't meet your expectations, and please don't call anymore.
Her voice carried a certain force. Michelle groaned, troubled, and soon her voice became muffled. She seemed crying.
Emily, please, we have no other way. Our home will be ruined. Then Dad and I will have nowhere to go. We've been abandoned by relatives. What should we do?
Thinking of a solution is what adults do. Handing back the phone, I added, "You brought this upon yourself." Michelle had to take responsibility as an adult for despising me and Alex simply because we were a single mother family. She had to face the consequences.
Wait.
Her voice was desperate, but I silently ended the call. Despite persistent calls, Emily, with a resigned look, turned off her smartphone. John was delighted with Emily's pregnancy.
I want to be part of that child's family this time.
Please, feel free to visit our home.
Alex proudly responded. Due to the growing family, we decided to move to a new home next spring. Although it's a bit far from the station and inconvenient, it has a spacious garden. We're excited about starting a vegetable garden and growing flowers through the seasons. Since then, Michelle has become significantly quieter. Occasionally, Emily's father contacts her, but it seems his messages are mostly cries about the failing company and grievances against Michelle.
My dad always blames others. I wish he would be more responsible.
Yay, he's going to be this child's grandfather after all.
Alex said with a laugh. Emily also smiled. Watching their affectionate interaction filled me with contentment. Life in the new home has been smooth. I've quit my job to focus on household duties. Emily continued to work until her pregnancy was well advanced, but now she's on maternity leave, staying at home. The baby born was a girl.
Mary, it's such nice weather today, isn't it? The flowers are beautiful too.
Emily cooed, and the baby in her arms smiled back. The girl named Mary looks like her father.
Which do you like more, Mary, the flowers, or Mom?
She smiles at both.
Well, she's happy because her mom is beautiful.
Alex joked, making Emily laugh. Let me hold her too.
Here you go.
I took my granddaughter Mary into my arms. She was newly born, a tiny life. Yet, I could feel her substantial weight in my arms. You're such a good girl.
Yes, thanks to you.
Emily's smile had evolved from its once carefree nature to one endowed with the intelligence of a mother.
John is coming over for the winter break.
Oh, then we need to start preparing. I handed Mary back to Emily and stood up.
I'll help too.
Thank you. Let's see, until the break we have. I glanced at the calendar. It was filled with various entries. plans for the family, notes related to work. It felt like a testament to the passage of time that had flowed by.
My name is Linda Williams. I've been married to James for 7 years. We have one elementary school-age daughter. I never thought it was possible for someone to be so cute that it wouldn't hurt to have them in your eyes. But now that I'm a mother, I realize it's true. However, as soon as it was revealed that our first child was a girl, Susan, my mill, immediately demanded we have another one. Apparently, girls aren't acceptable. That being said, James's family is from a long line of office workers, and there's nothing to inherit, so it's not necessary to emphasize it to that extent.
Why don't you have a second child?
That's what I'm told every time we visit the in-laws. I'm leaving it up to nature.
If you leave it up to nature, it won't work. You absolutely have to have a boy.
Duh. Even though I'm told that, James became uncooperative with making another child once we had one. Even when I told him what she was saying, all he said was, "Just ignore her, she'll give up eventually." After about 2 years of marriage, the topic of living with Susan came up, and although I felt uneasy, I accepted it. Even though she won't show any love to her granddaughter. And as expected, I was blamed every day for something regarding the child.
You still couldn't do it this month. You're really an useless wife. Why can't you have children? Don't you have any intention of having children?
I can't possibly say that James isn't doing his part. It was around this time that I started to get fed up with being the only one attacked every day. And then Susan said something unbelievable.
James is going to remarry with Jenny.
Remarrying with Jenny? Who's that?
Haven't you heard it from James?
No.
She's James's mistress.
What? James was busy playing games on his phone and didn't seem to be paying any attention to our conversation. I looked at Susan again. Is she senile? As I was pondering, Susan shouted,
That's why you should leave right away.
Susan, James hasn't said anything about that, though. So even if you tell me to leave. Annoyed, Susan called James over and forced him to join the conversation. Even if I make him participate, there's no way he has a mistress, I thought. However, about Jenny, yeah, I'm going to remarry with her and divorce you. It's like saying, let's stop buying radishes and buy potatoes instead. What do you mean?
What do I mean? What do I mean? Hurry up and move out. My new deal is coming.
You explain yourself.
But haven't you heard what Mom said? My new wife is coming.
So you're saying you cheated?
It's not cheating.
Yeah, he's serious.
Serious? When did you even meet someone like that? Isn't that betrayal?
That can't be helped, since you won't have a child.
So because I won't have a child, he cheated. And have you known about it, Susan?
Yeah, I did. That's why I've been telling you forever to have a boy, but you keep saying to leave it up to nature, and this is what happens.
Here, the divorce papers. Sign them and submit them.
James had them prepared in advance, apparently, and he took out the divorce papers from the drawer, placed them on the table, and went back to looking at his phone. How can you be playing games on your phone at a time like this?
It's not that big of a deal. It's just signing divorce papers.
Why is it so hard for you to understand? Susan keeps saying it's all about having children, but you don't even try to make one. Even if you say we need a boy, with your lack of cooperation in making one, we'll never have a child.
So, are you blaming James? Isn't it your fault?
Why am I at fault?
It's always the wife's fault if the husband isn't in the mood. That's how it goes.
Huh? What's that supposed to mean?
That's why I was against this marriage. Besides, you're too old. When you said you wanted to get married, you were 28. I was worried that you were too old to have children. And as expected.
But we did have a child. We have a daughter.
But that's not enough, is it? Girls eventually marry off. They are useless.
People don't have children just to be useful.
Well, aren't you cheeky? You know, as you get older, being cheeky just isn't cute anymore.
That's terrible. I've always listened to what James said. I came here without opposing to keep the peace in the family.
You know, that's what's boring about you.
Huh? Boring?
Well, you know, no matter how much I hate it, I just have to say yes, dear, and listen obediently. That kind of thing is just boring, you know. When it comes to that, my girlfriend, she's got her own opinions, you know. I think that's what's good about her.
What's going on? Accepting living with Susan, not opposing anything she says. All for the sake of James. Is that boring to him?
And, the way things are going, we won't be able to have a boy, right? I don't have any expectations for you anymore. I mean, you're 35 already. No matter how hard you try, it's impossible. Besides, even James would prefer a younger woman, right?
Susan said that as if she were mocking me. And I remembered. I've been enduring being looked down upon like this by Susan ever since I got married. Being told I'm a bad daughter-in-law compared to the neighbor's daughters-in-law, being criticized for my cooking being awkward. When my kid made noise, I got scolded for not being able to discipline her despite my age. Even when I asked James for help, he never sided with me. What was the point of enduring all this for 7 years? And to top it off, James's affair. When did the affair start? And who is this Jenny person?
Since when? Let's see. It's been about a year since we got married.
Wait, 6 years ago? That's around the time I gave birth.
Yay. Well, you know, as Mom said, younger women's skin is better, so.
How much worse can it get? Where did you meet her?
Oh, it was through Mom's introduction.
Huh? Cousins.
Yeah, she used to work part-time at a store I frequented, and I thought she'd be just right for James, so I approached her.
Does that person know you're married?
Oh, yeah, she knows. But she's saying she's fine with it if I get divorced.
She was having an affair knowing you were married. How old is she?
You're so interested, but you're the loser here, so why does it matter?
See, my husband was taken away. Don't I have the right to know?
Fine, she's 30.
You're 10 years older than her, aren't you?
That's why she'll probably give birth to healthy babies.
So, did Susan encourage the affair with that person just to have babies?
Well, after giving birth, they can just live together as parent and child. I'm not thinking it's just about having babies. As proof, I'm telling you to leave because you can't give birth.
That's just.
The younger one wants to get married too. All you have to do is leave. Come on, hurry up and write it.
I was urged to write the divorce papers. I couldn't think anymore as they kept telling me to hurry up. At that moment, I saw my daughter with an anxious expression in the corner of my eye. standing at the entrance of the room. She was quietly watching us. My daughter's watching.
Oh,
It's not good to talk about this in front of a kid. Let's talk about it another day.
Oh, it's fine. It saves you the trouble of explaining to her. Besides, if you divorce, she has to understand her parents' divorce sooner or later.
It'll hurt her, won't it?
it's okay. This kind of thing happens in every household. Parents' divorce is normal nowadays.
I inadvertently stared at James's face. What are you saying? You don't care about our kid? Thinking that, I began to feel foolish for clinging to being with such people. Then, another part of me appeared, saying, just write it and break up already. And I picked up a pen and signed the divorce papers. Here, I've signed it. Is this okay? Saying that and throwing the pen aside, Susan took the divorce papers and looked at them closely.
Yeah, this is fine. Now, please leave.
What?
You're divorced, so it's weird to stay in the same house, right? Even a new wife wouldn't like that, so please leave.
It's too soon to say that.
Well, we want you to leave as soon as possible.
But I have a kid. It's not that easy.
Oh, my. I thought signing meant you were prepared for something like that. Yet, you seemed completely unprepared.
Well then, you have a week to get out. Mom, you're okay with that, right?
Well, I guess there's no helping it.
As soon as I signed, it felt like I was erasing the past 7 years with an eraser. I felt a chill as I led my daughter by the hand into the bedroom. So then, James, humming a tune, stormed out of the house as if he was off to see another woman. Susan, apparently deciding to follow suit, left immediately afterward, and I heard the sound of the front door closing. In an instant, the once lively house fell silent, with only the hum of the refrigerator motor, which seemed oddly cold. My daughter clung to me, crying. It's okay. There's nothing to worry about. We're not going to end things like this. Yes, we'll start everything anew from here. As I reassured myself, I picked up my phone and made a call. Within a week, I had finished packing and arranged for a truck. There were piles of cardboard boxes stacked up in the foyer. Upon seeing them, James and Susan seemed delighted.
So, you're finally leaving.
Well, it took quite a while.
And there are so many cardboard boxes.
I hope you're not planning to take the appliances with you.
Can't you see? Not a single appliance is missing.
Well, that's annoying, but I guess it's better safe than sorry.
Since there are also our daughter's things, it's understandable. It just shows how much money I've spent on them all these years.
You've been so wasteful.
That's true. I wasted money on people who were of no use.
I won't be sending any forgotten items back, so don't even ask.
I'll be fine.
Well, that's good. This will make the house feel more spacious. I was feeling suffocated before.
As the truck arrived and we loaded the belongings, the two of them sat on the living room sofa, Susan turning on the TV. Even when I asked James for help, he was glued to his phone playing games. What kind of people are they? Even at the very end of saying goodbye to their precious daughter or granddaughter, they maintain this cold attitude. There was a slight pang in my heart, but thanks to this, even that feeling disappeared. With everything now over and a new beginning ahead, I felt refreshed. As for my daughter, she watched me instructing the movers while clutching her stuffed animal. Her face still betrayed her anxiety, tears welling up in her eyes. It's okay. There's really nothing to worry about. With that thought in mind, I gently stroked her head. Once all the luggage was loaded onto the truck, James and Susan came to the front door.
Is it done?
Yes, it's finished.
Finally leaving, huh? Now I can invite her over.
Yes, finally. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, just hurry up and leave.
Since this is our farewell, and considering everything that's happened, could you escort us to the truck?
Why should we do that?
We've been a family for 7 years, so I think it's only right. It's our way of saying goodbye.
Goodness, you're so formal about the strangest things. Just leaving is enough for us.
Yes, that's why I'm asking for your help to the truck. I have no sentimental attachment either.
Mom, it's fine. That's it.
Oh, really? Well, if James says so, then I guess it can't be helped.
With that, Susan slipped on the sandals by the entrance and headed outside. Following suit, James put on the remaining pair of sandals and stepped out. I took my daughter's hand, and together we stepped outside the front door, giving a firm nod to the movers. Then the mover said, "Sir, please get in."
Why should I get in?
It's fine, Mom, please get in too.
Wait, why should I get in?
You need to get in. Once you're in, you'll understand.
Wait a minute, I don't want to. What should we do?
The mover pushed them both onto the truck. Though they resisted, they realized that making a scene would attract neighbors. Concerned about their reputation, they reluctantly boarded the truck.
James, what is this?
I have no idea. But causing a scene now would just be embarrassing. Let's just get on for now and figure it out later.
That's true.
It'll be fine if you can come back later. I said that, then closed the truck door and let my daughter wave to them. The mover nodded, started the engine, and began driving the truck. My daughter looked puzzled as she watched the truck drive away, but I smiled at her and said, "How about we have a snack?" Once inside the house, I laid out some snacks I had bought to calm my daughter down. It was a s'more cake, not really fitting for the occasion. "Let's have some." While eating the cake, I told my daughter that her father and grandmother had moved out. She must have thought she was going to leave this house too. She was surprised by the sudden turn of events, but I reassured her that everything was going to be okay. Then, her smile returned. It seems she didn't feel sad about getting rid of her overbearing father and cold grandmother. Even at her young age, she seemed to understand who was at fault. About an hour later, just as I had expected, I received a call from James.
Hey, what's going on?
"Oh, have you arrived already?"
Yo, I have. But isn't this her apartment?
"Yes, it is. Since she wanted to live together, I sent you over to her place. You should be grateful."
Grateful, like hell I am. And how the hell do you even know about this place?
It's simple. You can find out with a detective.
A detective?
Yes, I needed the address to send you away.
You're the one leaving.
I never said I was leaving. From today on, you'll be living there with her. It's great. You get to live with her so soon.
What? Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding. I'm dead serious.
Why the hell? My home is there.
That's right, that is our home. What the hell are you doing messing around like this?
It seemed like she was using a speakerphone, and Susan's voice was also audible, which was irritating. No, you're mistaken. This house is my home.
You're kidding.
It's you who's acting ridiculous, isn't it? Introducing a woman to my husband and encouraging adultery. It's amazing you could pull off such a stupid thing.
I'm not talking about that right now. Didn't I tell you to leave when you get divorced? So it's obvious that it's you, the ex-wife, who will leave.
Could it be that you haven't been told anything?
What do you mean I haven't been told anything?
Susan, why are you shouting here? You're disturbing the neighbors.
Shut up. The movers unloaded everything from the truck and piled up boxes in front of the apartment. If we leave it like this, all your stuff will get wet from the dew. If you don't want that, then come here soon.
I don't think I need to go since everything in those boxes belongs to you guys.
What did you say? That can't be true.
Susan continued to hysterically scream. Susan, it's embarrassing. From now on, if you're going to live there, the neighbors will think a crazy old lady has moved in.
Who are you talking about?
Anyway, please live there from today. We're strangers to each other now.
No, we're leaving. We'll kick you out of that house.
You can't do that. If you enter the house without permission, I'll sue you for trespassing.
What a woman. You're the crazy one.
James can confirm this. Why don't you ask him?
What are you talking about?
It's about whose house this is.
There's no need to ask. James said he bought the house after he got married. Even though it was used, it was clean enough. That's why I moved in with him.
Oh my, what a big lie. But someone who's comfortable lying even when having an affair would certainly tell such lies, right?
What do you mean?
Well, actually, this house was built by my parents before I got married. My parents passed away and I was living alone. But when I said I didn't want to leave my childhood home when getting married, James said, "Then let's live here." After getting married, when James said you would live with us, I thought it was okay since it's a spacious house.
Lies. James said he bought the house used. That's why we decided to live together.
Susan, think about it. How could James afford such a big house with his salary? And moving in right after marriage. Even paying for the wedding was a stretch for him.
But that's...
So, this house is mine. You have no right to claim it. Why don't you ask James?
James, what's going on?
From the phone, trembling Susan's voice could be heard. But James seemed to be playing games as usual, pretending not to hear.
James, stop playing games and answer.
When it's inconvenient, James tends to ignore. Seems quite inconvenient now that his lies are exposed.
James, say something. Are you just going to let her make a fool out of you?
Fine.
As James's faint voice came through, it seemed like it was now him speaking instead of Susan.
Sure, it was your parents' house, but I'm the one living here now, so it's mine.
Like a child's opinion. You could live here because of our marital relationship, right? That's why I allowed you to live here. It's the same for your mother, isn't it?
Well, that's true, but...
Even so, you lied about buying it yourself. Even if you say that, it doesn't become yours. The ownership of this house belongs entirely to me.
But if we divorce, we'll split the assets, won't we?
That's true. It's never been mentioned until now. But you see, I inherited this house before marrying you. Even if I inherited it after marriage, it's still my own inheritance. Which means it's not shared property. Too bad. So there's no need to split it.
That's a lie.
If you think it's a lie, why don't you investigate? I'm just stating what I heard from the lawyer. Upon hearing James's skeptical voice, Susan seemed to think she would lose if she continued, so she spoke up again.
But what about appliances and furniture? There are things to split, right?
Typically, yes, but all the appliances and furniture in our house were used by both parents. Of course, some things were bought new, like that $30 toaster. Do you want it? Shall we give you $15? Or do you want to give me $15 and take the worn out one?
I don't want it.
Oh, the junk James brought when we got married is packed in boxes. And all your stuff is also in boxes. Originally, most of them were going to be thrown away, but since you do seem to cherish things, I didn't want to hear complaints about throwing them away. So, I packed everything to ease your mind.
So that's how it is.
Thanks to that, the moving costs were no joke. It was quite expensive. But since all the appliances are mine, it's a good thing the moving costs weren't there.
So that's why the movers charged so much, that amount.
It was expensive indeed. I was surprised when I saw the estimate. But since it's money I don't need to pay, I didn't mind.
But there's still so much.
Oh yes, absolutely. Most of them were practically garbage. Torn socks, worn out sneakers, raggedy t-shirts.
You should have just thrown those stuff away.
Well, when I asked if I should throw them away, what did you say? What a waste. You said that, didn't you? You shouldn't just throw things away like that. That's what you said, right? And yet, you never wore any of them and kept buying new things. So, I couldn't bring myself to throw them away. Any complaints about that?
And now you're telling me to live in this cramped apartment.
I can't say whether it's cramped or not. But you wanted to live with her, didn't you? Isn't that great?
With all this stuff, it's impossible to live in an apartment.
Well, that can't be helped, can it? You and Susan are the ones who got involved in an affair.
Hey, come on. That's just cruel.
The divorce went through, so I have nothing to do with it anymore. And this isn't the end. There's more to come, so be prepared.
Huh? What do you mean them's more?
James and Susan were surprised by my words, but I laughed and hung up the phone. Later on, I received a frantic call from James. It seems he's being scolded by his mistress.
What's the meaning of this? I didn't agree to you coming over suddenly.
I didn't expect things to turn out like this either. She just dumped our stuff and us here.
Then take them back.
It's a lot of stuff. It's not that easy.
I didn't ask for this. When your ex-wife moved out, we were supposed to live in your spacious house.
Sure, but it's not that simple anymore.
Why not? That house is your house, isn't it? Can't you just reclaim it?
Well, you see, actually, it's in my ex-wife's name.
What? But you said it was in your name.
Yeah, it is. But there are some complications. I thought if we were divorcing, she should at least have the house, you know, to be fair.
This is ridiculous. What about me? How am I supposed to live in this cramped space? And look at all these cardboard boxes we have.
Yeah, I get that, but...
So, does that mean we can't live in that house?
Yay, well, that's how it is.
Then buy a house. If that's not possible, then rent a spacious apartment right away, with your salary.
Well, that might be difficult.
You're so annoying. It's no use making such a racket in this tiny apartment. Since it's come to this, we have no choice but to live here.
What? What are you talking about? Are you seriously considering living here? Then you should pay 2/3 of the rent.
Huh, why would I do that?
Of course, you brought your mother along without even being married yet, and now you're saying you'll live here together. It's ridiculous. If we're living together, you should pay rent for each person. And also, food and utility expenses, we should split those too.
Why are you so cunning?
I'm cunning. You're the one trying to live here without paying anything. Most of these boxes are yours, right? I don't even know what's inside, but do you really need this much stuff? There might even be stuff in here that's unnecessary. I almost want to charge you for the storage space these boxes are taking up. They're taking up almost all the space.
I can't believe you'd say something like that.
Marriage hasn't even happened yet, and we're already in a battle between wife and mother-in-law. I don't even want to go back to the apartment anymore.
Oh, really? Doesn't sound like fun.
Don't joke. My mom says she doesn't want to live with a woman like Jenny, and Jenny says she'll never accept Mom as her mill. It's so difficult that the neighbors are complaining about the noise.
I thought that would happen. I've almost lost my temper living with that mill. But I endured it for James's sake. But why should you have to endure it when you're not even married yet?
And on top of that, then's alimony from you. What do you mean, alimony? And child support too.
We divorced because of your affair. It's only natural to ask for alimony. And since I'll be raising your child, it's only natural to ask for child support too.
There's no way I can afford that. If I pay that, I won't even be able to move out.
Then don't pay. In that case, I'll have to hire a lawyer. But if I do, be prepared for it to get even more expensive. The lawyer I'll hire is quite skilled. And I think I'll also bill you for the lawyer's fees.
Why?
Because the lawyer's skilled.
Please, don't make such demands.
From behind James, who spoke in a tone akin to a complaint, came the shouting voices of his mistress and Susan. After that, he never paid the alimony or child support. Realizing this wouldn't work, I eventually decided to hire a lawyer. The lawyer, as reputed, demanded lump sum alimony and secured a promise to pay child support every month. But James was irresponsible. He even thought about not paying. So, I added a condition that if he didn't pay for even 1 month, his salary would be garnished. Of course, I also demanded compensation from his mistress and ordered her to pay it all at once. Then his mistress seemed furious, wondering why she had to pay such a thing, and another battle erupted. Jenny blamed Susan for being the one to initiate contact, but in contrast, Susan thought Jenny was the one to be blamed, knowing James was married, chose to be his mistress. Finally, the mistress, unable to tolerate being with such an old hag any longer, thrust a demand for compensation onto James and expelled both of them. The two who were kicked out seemed to have stayed at a gaming cafe for a while, but Susan kept saying that this wasn't doing the trick for their fatigue, so they somehow managed to contract a cheap apartment. However, it turned out to be a rather cool room with a cemetery next door. But then again, it's easy for you to say that since you don't live there, while Susan, who spends all day in the apartment, kept complaining about feeling queasy. He seemed to have tried to appease Susan by saying she could sleep in a bed, but apparently her hysteria was so abnormal that even when he came home tired, there was no room for relaxation. Under such circumstances, it was impossible to maintain a normal mental state, and eventually, James also suffered from a mental illness. He's now depressed and unable to work or go outside. It's tough not getting child support, but considering how he neglected me and our daughter, I hope he suffers as much as possible. On the other hand, with James and Susan gone from the house, my daughter and I are living peacefully together. Our lives are not threatened by anyone and are filled with peace and happiness. I'm praising the decision to divorce.
Right after Jack was born, Nate quit his job. Calling himself a travel writer, he barely worked, relied on my income, and led a carefree life driving across the country. One night, returning from a trip, Nate came home with a young woman holding a baby.
This is my mistress, Maria, and my child. I'm giving Jack to you. We're getting a divorce,
He said, pushing the signed divorce papers at me, breathing heavily.
I'll come to pick it up in a week. Make sure you've signed it by then.
A week later, Nate and Maria came back, and Jack and I told them.
You can't divorce Mom, you know, because
The car cost $64,000. You still haven't paid me back. Nate's cheeks twitched.
Besides, Dad, you're living off Mom's earnings. Maybe you should wait to get divorced until you can support yourself.
Maria looked bewildered. Nate started to make a muddy excuse. I smirked to myself. All right, Nate, it's time for you to pay up for all the freedom you've had. I'm Lisa, a 50-year-old housewife. I live with my husband of the same age, Nate, and our 8th grade son, Jack. I met Nate through a mutual friend, and we started dating. Always confident and lively, Nate was full of interesting topics and great at making conversation. We had fun times together. I thought it would be wonderful to spend my life with someone like him, so when he proposed to me at a fancy restaurant, I was over the moon. However, less than a year later, I regretted getting married.
I wish we could have kids soon.
Considering our age. We were having such conversations when we were blessed with a honeymoon baby, and I was over the moon. Looking back, I feel that was the happiest time of my life. I was suffering from severe morning sickness, unable to clean or prepare meals, but Nate never blamed me and was always considerate.
Lisa, do you think you could eat some chicken porridge? Or maybe some white fish? I've heard fruits are good for you too.
Nate, who's not great at cooking, would buy ready-made porridge, boxed meals, and fruits from the local supermarket and bring them to me as I lay in bed. To keep me from feeling sick, he'd eat his meals in the dining room and come back to pick up the dishes and even wash them. On weekends, he'd take over the laundry and cleaning. Nate, I'm sorry for the trouble, and thank you for everything, I'd say, and he would smile, gently patting my head.
It's only natural for spouses to support each other. Your body isn't just yours alone, so please don't overdo it.
Not only was he attentive and kind, but he also held a full-time position at a major corporation. I deeply felt that marrying him was truly the right decision. However, our happiness came to an abrupt end. I began having contractions early in the morning, so Nate took a day off to take me to the hospital, waiting outside the delivery room for our baby to be born. Eventually, our baby was safely born. The midwife went to Nate to show him the baby wrapped in a blanket, smiling as she said,
"Congratulations. It's a healthy boy."
At that moment, Nate's face changed.
What? It's not a girl.
It's a boy.
Nate's expression shifted from one filled with anticipation to one of intense disappointment. After moving to the hospital room, Nate let out a deep sigh and muttered in an exasperated voice,
The boy, huh?
At this moment, unaware of the seriousness of the situation, I offered a wry smile and tried to console Nate. You were hoping for a girl, weren't you? You were told it might be a boy by the doctor. That's too bad. I've heard there are still families who desire a male heir. However, neither my Mill nor Nate seemed particularly keen on having a boy. Though Nate wanted to know the gender, personally, I was indifferent.
I always dreamed of being a father to a daughter.
Nate became furious.
Men are just smelly, dirty, and not cute at all. Why didn't you have a girl?
I was infuriated by his awful remark. There's no way to choose that. Even if you try gender selection, it's not 100% successful. Our baby is precious to us. The gender shouldn't matter.
It should matter. Damn it. Seriously, men are just unnecessary.
Nate just left the hospital room after saying that. He never came to the hospital again, didn't contact me, and I had to be discharged alone. Since my parents' house was too far away and I couldn't rely on them, I reluctantly called my Mill to ask for a ride.
Nate was really looking forward to having a girl. I can understand why he would complain.
I explained the situation to my Mill, but as expected, she took Nate's side.
You're not going back to your parents, right? I can come over to help.
Thank you. If there's anything I need, I'll let you know. I replied with a forced smile, politely declining. It's only a 30-minute drive from my in-laws' place. But even if it's busy, raising a child just with Nate is far more comfortable than relying on my Mill, who only has sarcastic comments to offer whenever she opens her mouth. I thought that Nate was just in a huff and would soon cheer up and adore the baby. But I was too optimistic. I began living what felt like a solo hellish life. Before the birth, Nate and I had fun picking out baby furniture online and reading articles and books about babies, wondering what our life would be like. But as soon as Nate found out the baby was a boy, he seemed to lose interest. After we got home from the hospital, he dumped everything on me, from naming the baby to all the meticulous care, and abandoned his responsibilities. Nate, could you hold Jack for a bit? He's been crying non-stop, and I can't get anything done, not cooking, not cleaning. Even when I pleaded with Nate after he got home, he wouldn't even glance at Jack and coldly retorted,
You know I'm tired from work, right? Show some compassion. Dinner's not ready. Then I'll just eat out. Taking care of the baby is the mom's job, isn't it? I'll overlook the mess in the house. Just make sure the laundry is done. I need something to wear.
Even as Jack wailed, Nate ignored him and just played with his phone. No matter how much I asked, he wouldn't change a diaper, and baths and feedings were all up to me. Of course, dealing with night crying was out of the question. One evening, as we were watching TV and Jack started crying, Nate showed his irritation.
Man, he's been crying for a while now, hasn't he?
He seems sleepy, but even when I hold and soothe him, he won't go to sleep.
I better walk will stop the crying. Go outside.
I couldn't believe my ears. It's February, and it's 8 p.m. You want me to go for a walk while it's snowing. Are you sane? When I spoke up, Nate twisted his mouth into a smirk.
Driving around in the car would be a waste of gas. It's cold. Maybe he'll stop crying quickly.
I was filled with furious anger at words that shouldn't come from a father. Holding Jack, I grabbed the car keys, slammed the living room door shut, and left the house. After securing Jack in the car seat and driving around the neighborhood for a while, I sighed in relief when I heard him breathing softly from the back seat. Upon returning home, I laid him in his crib, ignoring Nate, who was rolling with laughter watching TV. One day, growing increasingly suspicious of Nate, he came home in the early afternoon. "You're home early today." As I was feeding Jack his baby food, Nate casually said while taking off his jacket,
"Quit my job."
"Huh, what?" I was stunned.
"I've been thinking, I'm not cut out to be an employee. Starting my own business or working freelance, using my talents, that's what suits me. From now on, I'll live freely, not tied down by any company."
Nate spoke proudly, and my mind went blank. Tentatively, I asked, "Do you have a new job lined up?"
"I love driving, right? Plus, I won first place in a composition contest in 3rd grade. I think I've got talent. So, I'm going to wander the country and write travel logs."
I felt dizzy looking at Nate's shining eyes. He had been in sales for 12 years, and now he was switching to a writer. Nate hadn't even written a blog, and the computer in his study was just for show. Typical of Nate's whims, he must have been inspired by some article online.
"Don't look so worried. In 2 years, I'll be making over $100,000 a year. It seems like anyone can do it, so someone as talented as me will definitely be a hit."
I switched my gaze between Jack, who was eating his side dishes with his hands, and Nate, who was going on about himself. I had planned to return to work after Jack turned 1, but now I faced the prospect of supporting an unemployed husband. That afternoon,
"First things first, gotta get the right setup."
Nate left full of energy to buy the latest model computer at an electronics store. One evening, after putting Jack to sleep and doing the dishes, I received a call from my mill. Despite feeling it was a hassle, I answered the phone. "Hello."
What have you been filling his head with?
She barked as soon as I answered. "I'm not sure what you mean."
He had a secure job for life there, with an annual salary of $80,000, and now suddenly he's jobless.
That's unthinkable. That's exactly what I wanted to say.
It's because you only pay attention to the baby. Nate got stressed and quit his job. Isn't it a wife's duty to take care of her husband, you failure?
If you have complaints, please address them to him. I'm busy, so I'm going to hang up now. While she continued to rant, I hung up and ignored her calls and messages for a while. My anger at Nate's selfishness didn't subside, but I was determined to work seriously to raise Jack. I hoped that by seeing me juggle housework and childcare, Nate might reflect on his actions, but it was in vain. Nate would lock himself in his study to tinker with his computer, or suddenly declare I'm going on a trip to the northern area and leave without contact, only to return days later. This forced me to rely on my workplace's childcare for sick children and work hard. I felt more like a single mom than just solo parenting. Juggling full-time work with raising a young child was challenging, but sharing parenting woes and encouragement with colleagues who also had young children helped lift my spirits. Thanks to my salary, we managed to get by, even affording a writing course that eventually led to earning $300 a month. However, our household finances still depended solely on my income. Nate never contributed his earnings to the household, spending it all as his personal allowance instead. Even the gas money, I was the one giving it to Nate. On a day when Nate had gone off to the South region, he returned home in a bright red sports car. What? Where did this car come from?
I fell in love with it at first sight and bought it. Can you believe it was only $50,000 for this beauty?
I nearly fainted. $50,000.
Yeah, I got bored of the old car after 2 years. This one's my new partner. A writer's gotta have a cool ride, right?
Seeing Nate smirk, I pressed my temples and asked, Wait, how did you pay for this? You have no savings, right?
Relax. It's on an 84-month loan. You can afford $600 a month, right? I'll be a bestseller soon, so just cover it until then.
I was dumbfounded at first, but soon anger started to bubble up. How could I possibly afford $600 a month? We're barely making ends meet as it is. Who do you think is causing all our financial troubles? Then Nate, distorting his face, shot back.
All you talk about is money. Money. It's so shallow. When did you become such a woman? Support your husband's dreams more. You're too practical. It's boring.
Saying that, he dumped his anger on me and locked himself in his room.
Daddy's back.
Jack, who had just woken up from his nap, stretched and asked me. Yes, he seems busy with work and went to his room. Make sure to say welcome back when he comes down.
Okay, hey, Mommy. How long is Daddy going to stay at home?
I'll ask him later. My heart aching at Jack's lonely smile. Even after Jack started going to daycare, Nate didn't try to interact with him and continued with his cold demeanor. If Jack spoke to him, he would respond, but Nate never initiated conversation or made eye contact. I wondered if it might be better to get a divorce if things continued this way. On the other hand, I worried about how Jack would feel if he found out he was the reason for his parents' divorce. It was hard to take that step. 15 years have passed since Nate quit his job. His monthly income is still just a few $100s. The reason for his stagnant salary is clear. After mastering the computer, Nate discovered the joys of online gaming and put work second to gaming. On the rare occasions he does get a substantial income, it quickly goes towards in-game purchases, with the remainder spent on clothes or outings to nightclubs. If he ever buys a souvenir, he brags about it for a while.
Those cookies I bought the other day were delicious, right? It's because of my job that we can enjoy such nice things. You should be more grateful.
As for the sports car, my relief at finishing the payments was short-lived, as Nate quickly sold it and switched to a new car. Initially, I protested. I want you to contribute to the living expenses. Since you're a father, why not spend more time at home? Maybe cut back on pouring money into your hobbies. And so on. Then Nate, with veins bulging on his forehead, would explode in anger.
You're mocking me for my low salary, aren't you? You look down on me and laugh.
That's not it. I just wish you'd act more like a father. When I spoke patiently, Nate, still angry, said in a rough tone,
Next year, I'll definitely be making $100,000 a year. Then, I'll have more free time to spend at home, and I'll contribute to the household. Stop nagging and just wait until then.
As we repeated these exchanges, it gradually became tiresome, and recently, I've given up on having discussions. Jack, perhaps taking his father as a cautionary tale, grew up to be a good and honest child. He always cares for me when I come home tired from work. He helps with the household chores, and when I wake up from napping on the sofa, I find a blanket over me. And on special days like my birthday or Mother's Day, he surprises me with a homemade dinner and a bouquet of flowers. He takes care of everything. One evening, while I was preparing dinner, I heard the front door unlock. Thinking Jack had returned from his tutoring class, Nate's voice then filled the air. Nate was talking to someone. As I removed my apron and went to see who it was, I was rooted to the spot. Nate was standing close to a young woman holding a baby. Hi there. The woman was dressed provocatively and wore heavy makeup. She must be a hostess from the club he frequents. But why would he bring her to our house? The woman who came in with Nate pinched her nose and boldly walked into the kitchen to peek into the pots. With a pitiful smile and a nasally voice, she sneered.
Oh, it smells like garlic. Nate, the smell will stick to my clothes.
Sorry, Maria. Hey, Lisa, do something about it.
It's fine. I'll endure it. Teehee, is dinner tofu? Such a humble dish, Nate. The full-course Italian meal was delicious.
Nate smiled smugly at the woman's boastful comment.
That place is really good. As you can see, my wife prefers these plain, poor dishes. It suits her.
Oh, Nate, you're so bad.
Their laughter only fueled my irritation. Because of his meager income, I'd been estranged from Italian cuisine for 15 years. Swallowing the words that almost slipped out, I asked Nate, and who might this be? The woman looked at me challengingly, her voice full of excitement.
Nice to meet you. I'm Maria. I'm Nate's wife.
Hey, don't get ahead of yourself.
Nate chided, glancing at Maria and the baby with a smitten smile.
This is my mistress, Maria, and our child. She actually gave me a daughter. Cute, isn't she?
The nose is just like Nate's.
The baby, dressed in pink, was cradled in Maria's arms, looking at me with round eyes. Is that so? And what do you want? I asked coolly, and Nate grinned slyly.
I'm giving you Jack. We're getting a divorce.
He placed the signed divorce papers on the dining table and declared with a huff.
I'll come to pick it up in a week. Make sure you've stamped it by then.
Nate has had enough of you. I'll be taking over as his wife.
Maria, despite being the mistress, was incredibly arrogant. Nate, where are you going? This is your home, isn't it?
I don't want to live with you anymore. Once you and Jack are gone, I'll come back.
I was left dumbfounded by his absurd reasoning. The two of them left with a burst of laughter, and the distinctive noisy exhaust of the modified sports car faded into the distance. After being stunned for a moment, I came back to my senses and looked down at the divorce papers. As I stared at them, a fierce anger began to well up inside me. He abandoned the role of father simply because the child born was a boy. He quit his job on his own accord, not contributing the meager income to the household, but instead spending it all on himself. And now, to top it all off, he says we should get a divorce because he has a mistress and a child. I tore the divorce papers into tiny pieces and threw them into the trash can. I'm seething with anger. This isn't a joke. How selfish can you get? I clenched my fists. If that's how it's going to be, I have plans of my own. You're going to pay for everything you've done up until now. A week later, Nate came back. They did not bring baby. Probably left the baby with someone, anticipating a showdown. When Jack answered the door, Nate showed a hint of awkwardness.
Hi there, I'm Maria. I'll be your new mom. Nice to meet you.
Ignoring Maria's overly enthusiastic greeting, Jack looked straight at Nate.
Dad, you're back, so you should say hi to Mom, right?
Nate brushed off Jack's comment with a grimace. He led Maria to the dining table, holding her hand, and seated her next to himself. As I was making tea, Nate barked at me.
We don't need tea. Just hand over the divorce papers.
Well, it's going to be a long discussion. Might as well have something to drink. I put on a smile and prepared tea for 4, placing it on the table. Jack sat across from Nate, and I sat opposite Maria. Jack, being in 8th grade now, I figured he could understand everything, so I decided to tell him the whole story. After taking a sip of tea to moisten my throat, I casually told Nate. I threw away the divorce papers.
What? Hey, you really don't want to divorce me that much.
Nate smirked, but Jack looked at him with evident disdain.
You can't divorce Mom, you know, because...
The total cost for the 2 new cars, $80,000. You haven't paid me back yet. Nate's face went pale. Don't think I've forgotten. When are you going to pay me back? I covered for all of it, after all.
Yay, Dad. And how are you going to support yourself if you remarry this woman?
Jack chuckled lightly.
Since we're living on Mom's earnings, maybe it's better to postpone the divorce until you can support yourself, right?
Nate was visibly flustered. Maria's eyes widened as she looked at Nate's profile.
What's this about? Nate, what's going on?
No, it's just an inside joke. Maria doesn't need to know.
I slammed the printed payment statements in front of him. Look, this is for the previous car, 84 installments. And this is for the new car. Maria, do you see? It's all being paid from my card. After checking the statements, Maria tilted her head, puzzled.
Why doesn't Nate pay for it himself? You're making $100,000 a year, right? You were the section chief at Smith Corp.
Jack and I burst into laughter simultaneously. Really? Still carrying around a business card from 15 years ago?
That's practically fraud, isn't it? Your current title is unemployed.
We couldn't stop laughing at the absurdity.
No, I'm a freelance writer.
Self-proclaimed travel web writer, right, with an income less than a high school part-timer, used to earn $80,000, now what, about $4,000. Maria was shocked.
What? $4,000?
Yes, look.
Oh, no.
I showed Maria the bank statement. The monthly deposits of $400 or $500 from the same company name left her speechless.
So, all these designer clothes you're wearing, those shiny leather shoes, and the luxury sports car, everything was bought by your wife? Even all the meals you've treated me to were with your wife's money?
That's right. Look at this. I leaned over the desk, showing Maria the credit card statements. He took the card I hardly ever use and spent without asking.
I'll pay it back later. It's fine, isn't it? We're family.
Nate raised his voice.
In 2 or 3 years, I'm supposed to be making over $100,000. Maria, you believe in me, unlike these two, right?
Maria offered a non-committal smile. You said the same thing when Jack was a baby. 15 years later, nothing has changed. Beside me, Jack nodded. Maria, you can live with him or remarry him if you like, just as long as you settle the new car payments and the unauthorized card use I covered.
Of course, that's separate from the alimony and my child support, Dad.
Quiet. I get it.
Nate, no pleading, turned back to Maria.
So, Maria, you'll lend me the money to pay Lisa back, right?
Let me think about it, Nate.
Maria's face twisted uncomfortably. It seemed like a perfectly reasonable reaction to me.
What? I'll pay you back later. We're going to be married, so it's fine, right?
Nate said, trying to push his illogical reasoning on a hesitant Maria. I couldn't help but let out a wry laugh and picked up my phone. Now, it was time to start the second phase of my revenge. By the way, Maria, did you accompany Nate on his latest resort hotel trip? I asked cheerily, and while Maria awkwardly looked away, Nate, having become completely shameless, grinned.
Yeah, the view was beautiful. A really nice place.
That's wonderful to hear.
How did you know that?
With a bright smile directed at Maria, I continued. You see, my cousin works at the resort hotel. Since you both visited together, she decided to inform me about the affair and sent over some evidence photos. I opened the photo app on my phone, selected the image file, and placed my phone in the center of the dining table so everyone could easily see. Look at this, Bo. Who's that with Maria, I wonder? Maria froze as she peered at the image, while Nate, doing the same, quickly turned ashen.
Maria, who is this?
Hey, taking pictures without permission is an invasion of privacy, Maria exclaimed, losing her temper.
I calmly smiled and apologized. Sorry about that. My cousin couldn't stand my husband's infidelity and ended up taking quite a few photos.
Geez, making a big deal out of nothing. Nate, honey, it was just an acquaintance I happened to bump into. Don't worry about it.
She twisted her body and leaned on his arm, which Nate quickly shrugged off.
I made the reservation because you said you wanted to go.
At that moment, Nate's face stiffened.
Now that you mention it, you weren't there when I woke up in the middle of the night. Don't tell me you went to his room.
No, that's not it. Really, just an acquaintance.
As Maria repeated her excuses, I had to stop myself from laughing. I grabbed a large envelope from the end of the table, took out several photos, and laid them out. Maria looked shocked, covering her mouth and letting out a shriek. These were photos sent to me last year, showing a heavily pregnant Maria closely huddled with a man, coming out of an obstetrics and gynecology clinic.
Hey.
It was just a favor to accompany me. Believe me, Nate.
Nate's voice carried a menacing tone, and Maria clasped her hands together, desperately making excuses. I began reading from the investigative report I had pulled from the envelope. Interesting, that day was a parenting class. Usually, if someone is accompanying, it would be the father, no doubt. Oh, isn't that baby the same one from before? Not Nate's child, then. As Maria fell silent, I smirked lightly. This man being the father of the child but juggling another woman on the side, and then running away after the birth. How awful, poor Maria. As I sneered, Nate stammered, trying to defend Maria.
There's no way Maria would do something like that, right? Saying that the child's father is some other man, that can't be.
Sorry.
Maria's feeble apology left Nate momentarily frozen, his face flushing with a mix of anger and embarrassment.
So, after he ran off, you lied about the baby being mine to trap me into marriage. Don't mess with me.
Nate exploded in rage, and Maria fired back just as fiercely.
What? You were drowning in debt and leeching off your wife. Then you lied big time to me. You have no right to complain.
Then, Maria turned her anger towards me.
You're nasty too. You knew he was cheating and just let him do whatever he wanted.
That's right. I've been dealing with a husband who does whatever he wants for 15 years. I thought I'd hit him with irrefutable evidence and milk him for alimony. I let out a sarcastic smile. Sending La Vida Ve messages to my phone by mistake, suddenly dressing up, coming home reeking of women's perfume. It was all too obvious. At that, Jack crossed his arms and nodded.
You were always in such a good mood at home. Seriously, after everything Mom has done for you, how could you even think of cheating? What kind of nerve do you have?
Jack looked thoroughly disgusted. I wanted to know more about the woman he was seeing, so I hired a detective agency. They gave me a bunch of bonus photos, so I thought I'd share them with Nate too. I smugly informed the glaring pair. Well, I'm not the type to be instructed by boss. Remember saying that? Pretty bold for someone who got fired for causing trouble. Nate's eyes widened in shock.
How did you know about that?
I heard it from the person who introduced us. I said with a sneer, enjoying the moment of revelation. You got fired because you touched a young girl's body and claimed it was all blown out of proportion because you were drunk. Nate trembled, his body shaking uncontrollably.
I just touched them over their clothes, but they were overreacting. It's okay if I was drunk. It doesn't matter.
That's pathetic, Dad.
Jack's voice was filled with disdain.
When I heard about it, I was mortified. I was more shocked by that than by the fact you never showed me any affection. It's embarrassing.
Really? What do you even think of women?
Nate, to think you're that kind of person. Gross.
Maria, now looking at Nate with disgust, chimed in.
What? I don't want to hear that from someone who tried to pin another man's child on me.
Nate shot back at Maria with a fierce glare.
At least I'm not as bad as you.
Both of you are terrible. The new employees you harassed are planning to sue you, so you better be prepared. Nate's shocked reaction.
What? For that?
They're not satisfied with just having you fired. They say they've suffered emotional distress and want compensation. Nate was incredulous.
I don't have that kind of money.
As Nate raged, his face turning beet red, Jack looked on, weary and disappointed.
Dad, you need to take responsibility for what you've done.
Directing a look of pity towards Nate. I then turned my gaze to Maria. Well, Maria, if you still want him, I can wrap him up for you with a bow.
I don't need such an old man.
Maria shot back as she stood up forcefully.
I thought he was a division chief at a big company with an annual salary of $100,000, so I considered making him the father.
She glared hatefully at Nate, speaking rapidly.
But he turns out to be a prideful liar, living off his wife, with bad habits around women and drowning in debt. I wasted my time with him. Give me back my time.
That's my line.
Nate stood up to retort.
I don't need a woman who cheats with another man. Never show your face to me again.
Then let's break up. Goodbye.
Maria stormed out of the house, and as Nate watched her leave from the doorway, he collapsed to his knees, sobbing and muttering resentments.
It's cruel, Maria. You said you loved me, yet you were carrying another man's child. She's a girl, but I don't want a child that's not mine.
I sharply rebuked the downtrodden Nate. You're facing this because you wanted a child with your mistress while abandoning your role as Jack's father. Children are not accessories. Think about Jack's feelings for once.
It's okay, Mom. I haven't thought of him as my father for a while now.
Jack said, smiling sadly. And I've recognized him as nothing more than a housemate for a long time. He slumped to the floor, sniffling pathetically, while I watched out of the corner of my eye and sighed. I've had enough, Nate. Let's discuss this through lawyers from now on. I told him in a solemn tone. The costs for the 2 cars I covered, the charges from the card you used without my permission, and alimony. After you've transferred all that to my account, I'll file for divorce.
How am I supposed to pay all that at once? Since we haven't filed for divorce yet, we can just cancel it.
Nate, his face smeared with tears and snot, lit up as if he had a brilliant idea.
That way, I can save on alimony and child support. Look, Lisa, I was wrong. Let's start over. He reached out to me.
I pushed him away reflexively. Don't joke with me. After that, Jack and I kicked out the persistently clinging Nate. After our divorce, Nate was kicked out by me and begged his mother for help. However, concerned about public image, she got furious about his infidelity and disowned him. He moved into a cheap apartment and started working seriously for the first time in 15 years. At 50, unable to secure a salaried position in sales, he finally found work in manual labor, getting scolded by supervisors younger than himself every day. Later, sued by the female employees, Nate avoided a lawsuit by paying a settlement, had paid for, forcing him to accrue more debt to settle his dues, which he funded by selling his luxury sports car. However, the money wasn't enough to cover the unauthorized credit card charges, alimony, and the cost of the first car I had paid for, forcing him to accrue more debt to settle his dues. Certainly, he must be working tirelessly only to have most of his earnings go towards repaying me, with very little left for himself. Of course, I also demanded alimony from Maria. Her parents covered it, transferring the money into my account. Her baby's father turned out to be a regular customer from her club. Maria, who broke the rules by getting pregnant with a customer's child, was fired and had to return to her parents' home. After giving birth, she too was disowned by her parents. Now, she leaves her baby at a daycare, working in a different club during the week, and taking a part-time job at a restaurant on weekends, enduring harsh days. Jack's child support is dutifully transferred to my account every month. We've contracted through a lawyer that should there be a single delay, we'd immediately sue. Now our high school freshman, Jack is working hard in an advanced placement class, aiming to become a pharmacist.
Once I graduate from college, I'll make things easier for you, Mom. Just wait.
Jack, who earns his own spending money through part-time jobs amidst his busy study schedule, said with a smile. Compared to the days I fretted over Nate's debts, working for college funds feels almost enjoyable. Going forward, I look forward to spending fulfilling days with my kind and reliable son.
Out of nowhere, my parents showed up and started knocking on the car windows. Did someone ask you for a favor, Dad?
What are you talking about?
You're always so stubborn. Just quiet down and convince Liam to step down. Let him say that he will resign because his father is more suitable as chairman. Otherwise.
That's right. These people had teamed up with my in-laws to oust my husband, Liam, from his position as the next shaman. And then, suddenly, I noticed my mom holding something like a crowbar in her hand. She swung it high and then crash. The window shattered with a loud noise. They said a suicide note was found in Liam's car, which had fallen off a cliff, and I was stunned for a while. However, a week after the car was found, an envelope arrived by courier with a specified delivery date. Liam, in a panic, I received the envelope and opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a single letter and one key.
Read this without our parents finding out.
Of course, I knew that. But still, he must have wanted to write it.
This was written in advance in case something happened. If I'm still there when you receive this, just laugh and give it back to me. But if I'm not, please, Emma, take what's stored in this locker and immediately flee to my uncle's house.
My seal, Karen, and I looked at each other as we read. Then we grabbed the bare minimum and ran to the main house, where my uncle-in-law lives, to protect ourselves and our children, and to let everyone know what our parents had done. My name is Emma Wilson and I am 34 years old. I wish I could say I'm just a regular housewife, but that was only true until a week ago. Now, I am a widow with 2 children. I was told that it's highly likely my husband, Liam, took his own life. His car had fallen off a cliff, and they say a suicide note was found in the dashboard. I can't believe it. I won't believe it. Because it doesn't make sense. He had no reason to end his life, not by himself. Instead, Liam and I met at our workplace, a resort hotel connected to real estate. That was a place I had always wanted to work. As a child, I was captivated by a large and beautiful hotel I was invited to by my parents' acquaintance. I chose a university that taught important aspects for the tourism industry and worked part-time at a nearby hotel during my student days. And finally, I landed a job at the resort hotel I had always dreamed of. It was a place known for its strict employee training, and I nearly gave up early on. The only reason I managed to keep going was thanks to a senior employee at that time. Among those who couldn't handle it and left, there was someone who kept an eye on me, the one who remained. That person later became my husband, Liam Wilson. After 2 years of dating, we got married. But then I was surprised to learn a fact. Liam was the nephew of the chairman of this real estate group. It seemed that eventually, he was to become a part of the upper management of the group, but at that time, he was still training as an employee at the resort hotel. After our marriage, he moved from the hotel to real estate, starting to show his face around his uncle, the chairman. Originally, this group was a local real estate business that expanded significantly after the war. The current chairman, the second since the group was established, was credited with much of this expansion. Thanks to convincing his parents during the bubble economy period, they suffered less when the bubble burst. Later, they ventured into resort development, which was also steadily progressed. However, things started to get tricky around the chairman after he fell ill last year. This was because the chairman had no biological children to inherit his position. It was Liam whom the chairman nominated as his successor. And this decision shortened Liam's life. I was stunned and struggled to accept the news of Liam's death from the police. During this time, my in-laws kept calling non-stop.
Emma, something terrible has happened to Liam, hasn't it?
Terrible? Is that how they sum up their son's situation with such a simple word?
Hey, Emma, it's going to be hard on your own from now on. Why don't you come to our place?
Right, with Liam gone, it's going to be financially tough, won't it?
My Phil and Mill alternated with such remarks. Feeling angry at their words, I replied, I can't think about the future right now, and hung up. I thought to myself, what now? After all, I had only met these in-laws twice before. Once to announce our marriage and then on the wedding day. Even when our son and daughter were born, they didn't show their faces. Yes, Liam was avoiding his parents. That is, my in-laws. Liam had this to say when I wondered about my in-laws' attitude at the time of our marriage.
Those people are scum who don't even try to work for themselves.
Liam's parents currently hold certain positions within the Wilson Real Estate Group.
But that's just to keep them from doing anything.
Liam told me about his parents. Apparently, unlike his talented uncle, everything they do tends to backfire on the group.
So, they're given a position without work to keep them from meddling too much. They go on trips under the guise of inspections.
Then, didn't you get to travel with them, seeing various places? Liam laughed it off.
Karen and I were always left behind in our vast house.
Liam has a sister named Karen. She married a man with no ties to the group and lives in the city where he works. Liam got along strangely well with Karen's husband, James White. Whenever James was nearby for work, he'd go out of his way to see Liam. Karen would say things like, I'm jealous of the brotherly love. about the way those men interacted. Yes, the siblings got along well, and both had a strained relationship with their parents.
But it's fine for me. Once I got married and moved away, I couldn't care less about them.
Karen said nonchalantly.
But my brother is involved with the group.
And what does that mean?
Our parents know they're the black sheep of the group, so they hate seeing my brother who's doing well.
Is that how it is?
That's how it is with us. But your family is different, right?
Not at all. Indeed. I don't have a good relationship with my own parents, too. Well, it was good when I was a child. As an only daughter, I thought I was loved to a certain extent. But their true nature showed when I was in college.
Quit college and come back home.
I suddenly received such a message. The reason was a marriage proposal. They tried to call me back in my early 20s for that reason. Apparently, a son of a local notable had taken a fancy to me when he came back home. His spoiled wish was something my parents tried to fulfill for their own benefit.
After all we've done to raise you, you should be grateful and do as we say.
I felt the image I had of my parents crumble away inside me. They had raised me, their daughter, wanting something in return. When I realized this, I firmly refused to return home. Then, they stopped sending money for tuition and living expenses. They must have thought that would make me come back. But I refused to return out of sheer stubbornness. I consulted with my professor and looked for ways to continue my studies without being forced back by my parents. It was a desperate struggle until I graduated. Scholarships somehow covered my tuition. The problem was living expenses. I moved out of my secure apartment, sold unused furniture, and moved into an older apartment. Then, my life revolved around college, part-time jobs, and job hunting. I only went back to my room to sleep. As a result, this part-time job experience led to my employment, where I met Liam. And my parents were oddly happy about my marriage to Liam.
They are good parents.
I gave a wry smile to Liam, who implied a comparison with his own parents. No, they found out. They investigated you, knowing you're the nephew of the real estate group's chairman. Liam couldn't believe it for a while. But when my parents showed up for the birth of our son, Matthew, and our daughter, Jessica, Liam too realized they weren't so different from his own parents. After all, my parents said this:
Now that you have 2 children, you'll be secure for the future.
Yes, our lives will be easier too.
Liam's smile twisted slightly at that moment. Both Liam and I were sensitive to the words uttered by parents. Especially Liam, who knew about my struggles during my student days. Whether they had let their guard down a bit or simply took it for granted, their words clearly indicated they were looking forward to leeching office and our children in the future. After that, Liam also became wary of them. Distant in-laws and parents who tried too hard to get in touch. While being cautious of both, I went on raising our children. As Liam's current position and salary allowed, we could afford to hire a housekeeper or a sitter. While we didn't have trustworthy relatives, we managed to get by on our own. However, last year, the situation changed. The chairman fell ill. The chairman, still in his 60s and usually in good health, exercising regularly, was someone you'd say was unlikely to get sick. He was fit, and his blood pressure and other health indicators were fine. but an impact to the head he had received when he was young had now formed a blood clot that pressed on his brain. Emergency surgery saved his life, and the prognosis was good with no lasting effects expected. However, the group was shaken by the realization that a successor had not been appointed. The chairman himself must have thought he was still capable of letting, which is why he hadn't decided on a successor. But illness comes unexpectedly. Once that became clear, there was a need to think about a successor. The issue then was who that successor would be. The chairman and his wife had no children. At that point, they had neither biological nor adopted children. During his convalescence, the chairman nominated Liam. Within the group company, the proposal seems to have been accepted as reasonable. The most senior employees within the group were aware of Liam's training and executive education. But there were some who couldn't accept it. That is my in-laws.
Wait a minute, brother. He's still too young, isn't he? Shouldn't I be the closest one to you?
Yay. Why would you bypass this man for Liam?
They apparently confronted the resting chairman. The chairman rebuked them, saying,
"If I left it to you, you would ruin a group."
And he clearly explained his reasons for choosing Liam. But then, the pressure turned towards Liam. Resign, say you're too young and want your parents to take over instead. It was clearly a threat. What started as please turned into do something or else, with the tone becoming increasingly aggressive.
This is getting serious.
What do you mean?
If I leave them be, they might harm me, you, or even our kids.
Really? At first, I wondered if they would go that far.
They'll do anything.
Liam spat out.
I've never thought of them as my parents, and they probably don't think of us siblings as their children. No, that's not right. To them, children are just tools to generate benefits for the parents.
It's the same with my parents.
No, your parents are better than mine.
Liam shook his head.
Their level of scumminess is worse. While Emma's parents are just clinging to potential profits, those people try to take the profit itself.
What should we do then? I flinched at the word take. A family filled with love and trust that I had finally gained. I didn't want anyone to get hurt.
I have an idea. First, we'll make sure the apartment security is tight against any intruders. So, Emma, please protect the kids when you go outside.
Can I handle it alone?
I'll ask my uncle to hire a security firm. They'll discreetly guard you when you're out.
I nodded in agreement. From then on, I chose places crowded with people whenever I took the kids out. I also actively participated in gatherings with other moms, which I usually hesitated to do. Being in a group, I figured, would make it harder for anyone to try anything. But even then, there was an attempt to kidnap my kids. It happened while we were all playing in the park. I was supposed to be watching the kids with some mom friends. A plump middle-aged woman, seemingly out for a walk, suddenly picked up my daughter and ran. The security guard, who had been guarding us from a distance, quickly intervened. However, the woman who tried to take my daughter ran off with surprising agility. We never found out who she was or why she did it. It's a scary world out there. Everyone, please be careful, was all that was said. We agreed that we needed to be vigilant against both money-motivated crimes and pranks. But I had overlooked one thing.
Hello.
I ran into my parents in the apartment parking lot. It was right after shopping with my kids. As we were about to exit the car, I hurried back into the car and locked it in a panic. Thump, thump, my parents knocked on the car window forcefully.
Mom, why are Grandma and Grandpa doing this? I'm scared, Mom.
I cracked the window just enough to speak with my parents, though I really didn't want to open it at all. Without that, however, communication was impossible. What do you want?
Hi, you finally opened up. Well, Emma, could you talk to Liam for us?
What are you talking about?
You know, it just seems a bit off for young Liam to become the next chairman. Isn't that out of order?
A chill ran down my spine. Could it be that these people were... Did someone ask you for a favor, Dad?
What?
My dad played dumb. And then my mom said,
You're always so stubborn. Just be quiet and convince Liam to step down. He should say, it's better if my father takes over as the chairman, and I will resign, or else.
In my mom's hand was something like a crowbar. And just as she swung it back, crash, the window shattered with a loud noise. The kids started screaming. Then, my mom reached her hand through the broken window. Get down, you two! I yelled to the kids and started honking the horn repeatedly, signaling for the security guard who must have been somewhere around. Sure enough, I heard the sound of several men running towards us.
Damn it.
With a click of their tongues, my mom and dad immediately left the scene, jumping into a nearby car and speeding away. Are you all okay? The security guards asked us. I'm fine, but my kids.
We're okay, Mom.
My son responded loudly. Still, it was certain that shards of glass had rained down on them. We'll head back to our apartment right away. Could you please accompany us to the entrance? The guards agreed and escorted us. The building manager was shocked by our situation and promised to ensure strict vigilance against external intruders. And when Liam came back home that night, I told him about the incident. Of all people, my parents.
Yay, my parents must have been roped in with promises of good positions if they could make my dad chairman or something.
It's possible. It's a very possible deal. Why do our parents have to be such people?
This is seriously bad. I'll go to my uncle's place and ask if he can hide you guys for a while.
To your uncle?
But we have to be discreet about it. Also, I'll contact Karen. I want her to stay with you guys for a bit.
But it won't that be a bother to Karen?
Given who we're dealing with, they might think something could happen to Karen too, since she's of the same bloodline. We're better off presenting a united front.
Liam immediately got in touch with Karen.
Unbelievable, those people. All right, brother, I'll join you. What about my husband?
James is busy with work, isn't he?
Yeah, well, but it's okay. I'll discuss it with him.
Thank you.
At times like this, I think it's good to have siblings. And Karen came to our house the very next day.
After I explained the situation to James, he said there's something he wants to look into and will join us later.
Is that so?
James is really reliable.
Well, he's the man I chose.
We felt a momentary relief and laughed together. But then, the next day, we received that phone call from the police.
Liam Wilson's car was found at the bottom of a cliff.
I couldn't immediately comprehend what that meant. Excuse me, what does that mean and how?
I'm sorry. He was just brought into the hospital.
I couldn't fully grasp the rest of their words. I could hear someone speaking from the other side, but I couldn't react right away. Karen, taken aback by my reaction, took over the conversation for me. After that, it felt like I was merely being led around by Karen, from one place to the next. We went to the police station, confirmed the details, and were handed an envelope that was found in the dashboard. A suicide note. When we opened it, there was a printed letter inside. The content was about not being able to bear the heavy responsibility of being nominated by the chairman, apologizing for it.
So, the police have concluded that my brother took his own life.
No, they still the autopsy and other investigations to be done. We've only shown you this because it was found, nothing more.
It's impossible that he did this himself. I raised my voice right there and then. The person who told me to be so careful. I was at a loss for words. The police said they would contact us when it was time to return Liam's body and sent us on our way. I don't remember much of what happened after that. The local news on TV mentioned that it was still unclear whether it was an accident or not, but the discovery of the suicide note was leaning towards the latter. I was so angry I turned off the TV, only to see my kids looking at me anxiously.
Mom, when is Daddy coming home?
My son was 8, and my daughter only 5. My kids had taken a break from school and kindergarten for a while. I was truly grateful that Karen was there for us during this time. My mind felt like it was covered in a thin film, detached from reality. However, a week after the car was found, an envelope arrived by courier with a specified delivery date.
Emma, this is for you.
Karen, noticing my dazed state, handed it to me. I glanced at the sender's section and widened my eyes. It's from Liam. In a panic, I took the envelope and opened it with trembling hands. There was a letter in it. And a key.
Read this without our parents finding out.
Of course, I knew that. But he still felt the need to write it.
This was written in advance in case something happened. If I'm still there when you receive this, just laugh and give it back to me. But if I'm not, please Emma, take what's stored in this locker and immediately flee to my ankles.
Karen and I looked at each other as we read. Then, in a rush, taking only the bare minimum, we took the kids and all got into Karen's car. My car had been under repair since that incident. I wasn't confident driving a replacement car to my ankles in the next state. So, we relied on Karen.
Leave it to me, but wear a hat and a mask.
Karen said with a smile. And then, we drove non-stop. We were on edge until we reached the main house in the next state. We thought security might be nearby. Still, with everything that happened to Liam, we were worried something might happen to the car too. Having informed Liam's uncle that we were on our way, we parked the car on the property and ran towards the main building. The chairman and his wife were already waiting for us, likely having been informed.
You had a long trip, Emma and Karen. Liam had told us to put guards on you and eventually send you here. But to think it would come to this.
Thank you, but I'm sorry. We had nowhere else to turn. My head was deeply down. My kids were looking around the grand entrance in amazement.
It's fine. I never imagined it would come to this. My foresight was lacking. I never thought they would actually target Liam himself. Those bastards.
The chairman clenched his fist in frustration. We were then led to a spacious living room. It was a room with a calm and warm atmosphere. His wife instructed the housekeeper to guide the children to a corner of the room and bring them some snacks. Thank you so much.
It's all right. You'll want to keep your kids within your sight right now, won't you?
Yes, I didn't want to take my eyes off them for a moment. But the discussion we were about to have was not something I wanted the children to hear directly.
That guys has always been rotten to the core, but it was hard to exclude them from the group without a decisive reason. Letting them swim around led to this mess.
It's not your fault, Uncle Richard. My parents were involved in this situation too. Liam and I both had terrible parents.
If this had happened, we should have adopted Liam much earlier.
His wife, Carol, muttered. The chairman suddenly looked up.
That's it. Call the lawyer right now.
What, Uncle Richard?
I don't want those children to end up like Liam.
The chairman made me a proposal. After the autopsy, Liam's body was brought to the chairman's house. It was for a private funeral and a memorial service within the group company. I attended the memorial service for Liam with the children, acting as the chief mourner. My parents were there too, shamelessly sitting in the row reserved for family and in-laws. His bosses and colleagues, all bewildered and saddened by Liam's sudden loss, were in attendance.
He was truly a good employee. We had looked forward to his future within the group.
Thank you. Liam would have been honored to hear that. I repeated these words mechanically. His friends and colleagues cried over the unexpected loss. Liam had been surrounded by genuinely good people. Yet, when it came to his parents, after the memorial service, the chairman gathered the family, in-laws, and executives at his house. The spacious gardens and halls were crowded with many people. Among them, a man rushed in.
There you are.
It must have been just after he arrived. Karen's husband, James, clutching a bag tightly, ran towards us.
Sorry I'm late, Karen, Emma. I get held up with some things. But having the memorial service and general meeting on the same day helped. I managed to make it work.
James grinned.
I'm returning these to you.
He took out a set of documents and a USB drive from his bag. Is everything all right now? These were from the locker indicated by the key we had received earlier. As we dashed away in Karen's car, we had asked James, who joined us along the way, to make copies of the documents and the memory stick and send them to us.
The copies were given to your lawyer, right?
Yes.
That's good. We absolutely needed the originals here.
I nodded emphatically. At the general meeting that began shortly after, the chairman spoke in front of everyone about the incident and expressed his regret over losing Liam, who was the designated successor. When he finished his story, the chairman introduced a new point.
It's truly tragic, and I believe I made a mistake in one aspect.
He called for me and my two children to his side. My children looked scared, surrounded by a sea of adults, almost on the verge of tears. I reassured them from behind, whispering it was going to be okay.
Therefore, I've decided to appoint my new children, Matthew and Jessica, as the next successors. They are Liam's children, but I have adopted them both.
The crowd murmured in surprise.
Many of you might be shocked. However, I believe that the tragedy occurred because Liam remained merely a nephew. Right.
At his words, everyone's gaze shifted towards my in-laws.
What are you saying, Richard?
Can I say that here?
Yes, it is. He took his own life, didn't he? A suicide note was found. Probably couldn't handle the pressure given to him.
Oh, seems like you still have more to say.
Yes. So, these kids are your adopted children now, and you're putting them under unnecessary pressure again.
Who knows, since they're your grandchildren, maybe they won't feel such pressure.
My Phil grimaced at this.
Actually, Liam didn't take his own life.
The chairman declared firmly. The attendees buzz at the words.
What are you saying? A suicide note was found in the dashboard.
No such thing has been announced anywhere, has it?
At this point, James spoke up, asking for permission to speak from the chairman.
Please, go ahead.
Meanwhile, my Phil kept making futile attempts to argue.
But if it was found in the car, it must be true, right?
That's where you're wrong. We, the police, haven't leaked anything like that to the media. Or maybe, David, you really had no interest in me.
James said, revealing his police badge from his suit's inner pocket. Yes, he was a detective in the police department of the prefecture where we lived.
Oh my God.
My Phil was speechless. I couldn't believe he hadn't noticed. I remembered Karen saying they hadn't been in contact since she started her job. And even their marriage was only reported briefly. But one would think parents at least will be interested in his son-in-law's profession.
That's just the kind of person he is.
Karen muttered.
I could only provide evidence for the investigation as a police officer.
James explained it. The police had been closely investigating the car pulled from the cliff from the beginning. They noticed early on that the brakes had been tampered with. This tampering occurred on the day Liam sent the letter by courier.
On that day, Liam first went to place something in a locker at the station, then went to a convenience store inside the station to send a letter to Emma. That's when he took a little time.
It was then that the brake system was tampered with. However, the situation didn't become critical immediately.
On his way to this house, Liam encountered a road with several winding paths. Do you know it?
A small voice starts to rise from around the place. Murmurs of agreement rose from the crowd.
An intentionally reckless driver came along. And as you know, this road isn't always wide.
Indeed, in rural areas, it's not uncommon for frequently used roads to be unexpectedly narrow.
Caught in a situation where he had to use the brakes subtly because of the reckless driving, Liam likely realized too late that the brakes were failing.
So, that's what happened.
Though he spoke vaguely, his implication was clear to all.
Yes. And the police have identified the driver from Liam's dashcam footage and have already detained them.
James said, smiling warmly at my in-laws.
But how are we related to that?
It turns out the aggressive driver was just a hired hand, and the investigation into the direct employer is ongoing. However, David, you are going to be charged with a different case.
A different case?
Yes. The case of embezzlement you've been involved in for years. Liam had been quietly investigating that matter. And this is the evidence.
At that moment, multiple projectors, seemingly operated from elsewhere, lit up every wall in the room with various documents.
For now, you'll be arrested for this embezzlement case.
Then, the door at the back opened, and police officers entered the room.
And then,
James glanced briefly at me, then turned his gaze in another direction.
Over there, you two.
What was?
My parents started to rise from their seats.
There's a warrant out for your arrest for vandalizing Emma's car.
What? But that's just a family matter.
My mom exclaimed. I confronted her sharply. A parent who smashes a car window with something like a crowbar, indifferent even if glass shards fall on their grandchild's head? I glared at my parents as hard as I could and said with all my strength, "You're not my parents." My parents slumped back down. Well, then what happened? My in-laws, arrested for embezzlement, confessed during their interrogation to plotting against Liam, adding to their charges. My parents, too, were charged with property damage and for aiding and abetting my in-laws' scheme. The local media were the first to leak the story, with regional newspapers and local news broadcasting it. Of course, that wasn't the end of it. Given the sensational nature of the crime and the fact that it involved actual parents conspiring together, it became fodder for national news and talk shows. In today's era, that's not all. They were marked with a permanent digital footprint. Even if they were released, what could they possibly do? Well, that's none of my concern. Since then, we've been living in Uncle Richard's house, given a room of our own. Richard's wife, Carol, adores the two new children, perhaps spoiling them a bit too much. Since she wanted children but didn't get them, she takes good care of them. But for now, I think it's okay. My two children, who had just lost their father, had to transfer their elementary school and kindergarten. I regret having to drag my kids into adult disputes. However, considering their safety, this seems to be the best solution. As for the chairman, he insists on staying fit until the two come of age, dedicating himself to physical fitness every single day. Everyone, tea is ready. I spend my days in this house, taking care of my kids and keeping the two company. I'm not sure how much I can be of help to them, but for the sake of the children, I plan to live as fully as I can.